3 months,
Yeah.
then maybe that it will be beneficial to the Knicks. So if defense is the problem, then the Knicks need to play a guy who plays defense.
Yeah.
And that's why I think you need to just keep the same starting, I mean, the same at least starting four, but switch out Alfred Payton for, I'm sorry, switch out Frank for Alfred
For
Payton.
Alfred Payton. Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's what I think the Knicks need to do.
I think I
Because
think
because if you look at the game, bro, if you look at the game, the second unit in game 3 wasn't nearly as effective as it was in
right.
game
Yeah,
2,
that's
right?
what I was gonna say. I think the numbers show it that when you take Derek off the bench, it really, really significantly hurts the production.
Exactly. So that's why I think at this point, Tom Thibodeau, I thought Tom Thibodeau won game 2 when he had to make the tough choice of bringing in Derrick Rose because he knew that they needed more offense.
Yeah.
But that works because you still had some bench guys that actually came out and started that third quarter. So that's why I think, these guys, this guy on the bench, Mr. Defense, you got to play the guy that's your defense. I think they should bring in Frank.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is first of all, I think the Knicks are not dead, right? I think that's another thing to keep in mind. It's like when you look at the media and you look at the fans and you look at some of the people that are talking about this series, I think that the series being talked about as if New York has already lost the series. And first of all, it's a 2-1 series, and on top of that, the Knicks have a really huge opportunity tomorrow to take one on the road, and that's really you and I both know that once the first home team loses, it's really on that team to be able to win on the road. So a win on the road in Atlanta would go a long way and obviously rejuvenate the series. But that's another thing. And also, I want to clarify, I don't think the Knicks have been that bad defensively either. I think, Atlanta is a very diverse offensive basketball team. They're not like just chuck up threes and make something happen with it. And Trey in particular, when you don't, and you mentioned it, when you don't have somebody who can stay in front of Trey, that's when you're really in trouble with him, because then he can start to get the floater game going. Then he can start to get the mid-range game going. He can get to the foul line, and that's how he really is able to be himself. So I agree with you, and also that's really the double-edged sword of Derrick Rose, and I think Bulls fans can tell you a lot about that, is you love Derrick Rose because his offensive game is really matured and gotten better. He used to be just like a leaper who could make shots occasionally, and now he's evolved his game so much. Part of the problem with that, though, is that opposing teams know that you have to go right after Derrick on the defensive side of the ball. So, once he gets back on defense, you have to make him move around a lot, run through screens, go here, switch, go there. And for the most part, he's done a decent job of that. But the problem is when you got somebody like Trae Young and then the shooters that they've assembled with, you talked about it, Bogdanovich, Gallinari, Herder, and then Collins is working on his game. DeAndre Hunter's been great from three as well, and he's supposed to be a 3-and-D guy, but he's impressed a lot with his three-pointer. So really, I think what you're talking about is very simply like tactical changes, and I think you're in good hands with Tibbs because that's one guy that knows how to go watch tape and then put a plan together. And I think that's really encouraging for the Knicks right now. Let me ask you, because, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I also want to kind of, we talked about the overall diagnosis for the Knicks, but I also want to talk about Julius Randle a little bit too, because, this is a guy who's in like MVP conversations, obviously won the most improved player, and is really like, he's taken his game to the next level this year, but the first 3 games here of the playoffs have not gone his way, and it's been, it's been an uphill battle even through that game 2 win. It was almost like pulling teeth just to try and get some points and try and, make some positive stuff happen. So similar to the way you diagnosed the team overall, what are you seeing in Julius Randle right now that's kind of preventing him from being himself?
Yeah, I think Julius Randle is pressing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. I think he's trying to do too much for this, for the situation. You got to remember, this is like his first time here.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is his first time here. And, and when it comes to a lot of these guys with the Knicks, outside of maybe a Alec Burks or Derrick Rose or Taj Gibson, but the core of the Knicks, this is a lot of these guys first time here. So
Yeah.
I think with Julius, I really think that he's kind of like really how do I want to say it? Like really caught up in the moment per se,
yeah,
for lack of a better way of putting it. So I think if Julius just like relax and just calm down and just play his game, because you got to remember, I know when the Knicks swept the Hawks in the regular season,
mm-hmm.
Julius averaged like 36 in those games. These are still the same defenders. I know that DeAndre Hunter missed a lot of time. Clint Capella wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
And it was a couple other guys that he's gone against that weren't hurt. So if you could go back to remembering how you scored those 36, the average of 36 in those first 3 games, the Knicks are going to be okay. So I think if Julius Randle, in my opinion, just needs to go out and just needs to just play his game and not press. Don't let the moment get to you. Yeah, it's great and exciting that 15,000 screaming New York fans are there and you want for them to put on the show, but at some point you got to still play like there was only still like 500 fans in the stands.
Right, yeah.
And you still got to average that same 36 points. So I think somewhere I think somebody is going to get in Julius's head and just say, "Hey man, just relax, chill, play your game." But at the same time, that's why I said I think another guy who needs to be put on that list is RJ Barrett. Because if RJ Barrett starts hitting some threes, now you can't double team Julius. Now really as a guy that he is more than 150 times better than. And you want to do all that dribbling shit
step back three
that wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like Kirk Horner, bro. Take him to the goddamn hole.
His name is Kevin, but I'm gonna call him Kurt from now on. I'm just gonna call him Kurt.
Kevin,
we might as well call him Kurt because I agree with you. RJ should be disrespected when he looks and Kevin Huerter is guarding him, right?
You.
Yeah.
I would take him to the hole at will. Yeah. And when you do that, guess what? Here comes DeAndre Hunter, or here comes Clint Capella. Guess who I just found? Maybe there's a Taj. Maybe there's a Nerlens. Oh, here you go, Julius. Get you a layup so you can build up your flipping confidence.
Right.
So I think RJ Barrett is really key because he's the best slasher, small forward to guard wise, that the Knicks might have that may not be named Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
He's really got to take advantage of that. So I think I'd love to see him go to the hole, get some confidence, then try for those threes.
Yeah.
And you'll see a brand new Knicks team. And I'm with you. The reason why I'm not tweaking out is because our head coach is Tom Thibodeau.
Sure, yeah.
So I expect Tibbs to come out and have a solid game plan for us so that we can come into game 4 and not look like the way we did in game 3. And here's the crazy part. Having a game like game 3 can sometimes open up a whole world of things, because when you're tied 1-1, you can try an experiment like putting Derrick Rose in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And then you can try and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, now you can scrap everything and start fresh and start new. Like bringing in Frank and letting him start and play defense on Trae Young. If you had enough confidence to bring in Frank Ntilikina to try and guard Trae Young, even though I think that was a mistake because Frank was cold in game 1, I bet if you started him and let Frank really learn Trae Young, I bet you would get results. So that's what I'm hoping. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's what I'm hoping that they do.
Yeah, and I think also going back towards the Julius Randle stuff, like, and I say this, it seems like I say this every single show, but I want to say it again. It's like the Knicks are playing with house money, and, like, nobody really expected them to be here. Nobody really expected them to like, I think a lot of people were saying, they have home court advantage, but I think everyone was basically saying Atlanta is going to sneak in there, and really no one's giving the Knicks a chance even now. So I think, it's worth saying that I think Julius is the number 1 on the New York Knicks for the, in the most successful team for the Knicks in I don't know how long. So the pressure of that. And we talk about New York media a lot with with football and some of the baseball stuff, but New York media is not particularly nice to the Knicks either. They they expect pretty big things out of the Knicks, especially with just like the aura of the Garden. So but also I think in terms of what you're saying with RJ Barrett, I think you just start to look around this team and you go, holy shit, like half of this team is under 25 with little to no experience in this time of the year. The people, they weren't playing in the bubble last year. Like it's just a lot of things that make you go, holy crap, like, this isn't a Knicks team that has been there and done that. This is a team that's actively learning minute by minute, quarter by quarter. So, big game for the Knicks tomorrow. It'll be the early game tomorrow in Atlanta.
Thank God, by the way.
Yeah. So
like, because I dash at nights. Yeah. So I'm trying to like yesterday, for the game yesterday, dude, the feed was so bad, and I don't think it was necessarily the feeds, but with I was mentioning with the weather, storms coming through. Yeah. I think T-Mobile was being on the rag, and it was pissing me off at will. Oh my God, it was like every 3 seconds buffer, 3 seconds buffer, 3 seconds, and then I'm thinking that's just the stream. So then the game was actually on ESPN, so I went on the ESPN app. Yeah. It's the same thing. So if I'm getting the same results from two different sites, it's not the sites. It's T-Mobile being on the rag.
Cell service.
Come on, bro. Realize what state you're in and fix it.
Yeah, please. That's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. The next series, and really, I don't want to spend too much time on this because, the Wizards and 76ers, right? It's like, the Wizards snuck in. Let's be honest about what happened. The Bulls shat away that last playoff spot. There was, Charlotte really, a brand new young team, did not have enough experience to handle playing games or anything like that. So the Wizards are just completely outmatched with the 76ers. Just, as good as Beal and Westbrook are, when you talk about what the 76ers have and what they've built with Doc in his first year, it seems like they know exactly what identity they want to take on a daily basis and on a nightly basis. And I just don't think the Wizards have enough right now to challenge, in a serious way.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And like, it's crazy that this series, like the biggest story, and thank God to the New York Knicks who found that idiot that spit on Trae Young.
Dumbass.
Yeah. And dude, here's the thing that I can't stand. Like, dude, I don't mind ragging groups of fans, but I would never, like, okay, everyone knows that, well, I'm not going to use the Red Sox as an example. So I think the whole Red Sox nation are a collective bunch of complete idiots.
So what are you saying, Boston? Are you saying Boston might have a little bit of a problem with the R word, like as if Kyrie said it and the whole world went crazy, like, Kyrie, what are you talking about? And it's like,
we have no history up here about being
okay, good luck.
But that's the case. Like, I know a couple of people. Again, one guy being an idiot does not discern the whole fan base. You know what I'm saying?
No,
so as much as I think that okay, the Saints, as much as I think Saints fans are a complete collective bunch of idiots too, if one Saints fan like said something or spit on somebody, I wouldn't think that the entire Saints organization would do that. I would just think that idiot would do it.
And shout out to the Knicks fans and Knicks front office for swiftly moving on this, swiftly condemning this, and there was no like, ifs, ands, or buts, and that guy's a jackass. That's really all it comes down to. I mean, I can tell you, we've both been to ball games in pretty much every sport. When I'm at the Sox games and I'm in right field and like they're heckling Joey Gallo and Googling his mom and his girlfriend's name and saying Betsy, like that's fun. I like that. I think that's cool. I think that's all ribbing and fun and games, and I think everybody, even the players would admit that that's kind of fun and kind of funny. But first of all, we have to have respect. Like the whole Russell Westbrook thing is just a consistent thing that happens to this guy. We saw what happened in Utah, and then Philadelphia. I mean, let's just be honest. They booed Santa. They're just a bunch of jackasses there. I'm not ready to put it on the whole fan base, but like Philadelphia as a city has a problem with that. Like, you guys need to understand that you aren't somebody who has the ability to do anything physical, or even, again, like spit is just absolutely out of the conversation. There's no question about that. Popcorn is just stupid. Like, what are you fucking 12? You're gonna drop popcorn on somebody from the tunnel? Like, that's just completely out of the realm of what we want. And really, again, the NBA and the teams and the staff, they have to be vigilant about this. This isn't a new issue. Like, we have to like respect these players and listen to them and what they're saying. So, when Kyrie comes out and says, I really hope, that Boston can just boo me and keep it, professional and not, have the subtle racism. And then everybody in Boston's like, well, what are you talking about? Danny Ainge's like, what are you talking about? We don't have racism. And Kendrick Perkins, trying to cat for Boston fans. And then Marcus Smart comes out and just says it. Yeah, we have a lot of racist shit that goes on in Boston, especially at the games. This isn't the first time that the Red Sox fans have been put under the microscope. Bruins fans have been put under the microscope. Celtics fan has been put under the microscope. Just a notorious thing that goes on. So, we have to
Patriots fans.
Patriots. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I totally forgot the Patriots fans. Yeah, don't even get me started on them. So, and we're seeing it right now in European football, Nick, like with the Premier League and what, like, the racism that's happening in social media and some of these other spaces after the game, and like they're really coming down with an iron fist. So I want to see the NBA do the same thing. I know they did that with the fan who spit. I think they said he'll be banned indefinitely. I would like to see something more severe happen. I want to set a precedent here, Nick. I want to make sure that the next person who even fucking thinks about doing something like that knows what happened to the last guy. So that's just, it shouldn't happen.
I'm with you. Like, I'm shocked that, like, I think Trey at some point. First of all, I don't even think Trey Young even knew what had happened.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
On camera, and I think some fans probably was like, "Hey, yo, man, this dude over here spitting." Like,
yeah.
I don't want none of that. I don't want to be associated with this jackass. And they took him out. And I'm surprised that, assault charges or heavy fines on the guy, just ban him. Say you can't come to Madison Square Garden. Okay, yeah, whatever. That's just one venue. But if I'm gonna hit the pockets, I bet you won't.
Or what? Like, Trey said he doesn't want to press charges, but you know what? The Knicks have the opportunity to do that. The Knicks, on the back of your ticket, guys, I don't know if you guys understand this, but on the back of your ticket, there is basically, the team has autonomy to do whatever the fuck they want to if you do something wrong in their stadium. So that goes for every pro sports event. So Trey didn't want to press charges, but I think it's going to be up to the Knicks, and ultimately it's not really the Knicks, it's Madison Square Garden that has to come to terms with the fact that when something like this happens to a player, the next time this happens, it's not going to be going unnoticed. It's going to be another, Auburn Hills, Palisade Auburn Hills, and Steven Jackson running into the stands and beating the shit. Ron Artest beating the shit out of Detroit fans. So I'm telling you, like, we're not far away from something like that happening if this disrespect continues. Say what you want, boo, yell, Google their family members' names and heckle them about it. Like, to me, that's all fair game in what sports is. But first of all, when you get physical, when you start to touch people, when you spit people, when you throw stuff on people, that's just completely unacceptable, and just makes us look stupid. It makes us all look like meatheads, Nick. That's what really bothers me, is like makes sports fans look like meathead dumbasses. And now, Russell Westbrook has this thought process every single time now he goes to Philadelphia. He's going to have this in his mind. And every time he goes to Utah, I mean, that we haven't even mentioned that John Morant and his dad said that when they were in Utah, there was a group of fans that were basically yelling racial slurs and a bunch of other stuff towards Ja's family. Like, dude, Utah, get your shit together, because that's not new in Utah either. So I don't want to take it away from the basketball, because we're a sports show, but at the end of the day, dude, like we have to have more respect for athletes.
One coincides with the other, though. That's
You're right,
the
you're right.
unfortunate thing. One kind of just works with the other. And what sucks is that for Russell Westbrook, I don't know what it is about Philly and Russell Westbrook, but this isn't the first movie. Like, the one guy that flipped him off.
That's right. That was Philly too. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And now here you are almost 2 years later, and someone dumps popcorn. So I don't know what Russell Westbrook did to make Philly fans hate him so much, but it's out of line. And like people are saying, now you see why. So you have to. What sucks about being a professional athlete is when you have to separate the athlete and the professionalism from being a man.
Sure.
Yeah. Because as men, 9 times out of 10, we don't have much to lose. So if someone does something to us, we can react a lot differently.
Yeah.
When you're a professional athlete and something happens to you, you always got to take the high road, because
right.
that like goes back to the whole who was it? Who is the Kansas City running back or Kansas City Chiefs player that got in trouble for hitting that one woman that kept calling him the N-word? Who's the football?
Was it not Larry Johnson, was it?
No, my God, I can't think of who it was. I want to say it was a running back.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember in the NFL, some guy, like he was going to his hotel, and the white girl was clearly drunk and clearly kept calling him the N-word, but then he ended up snapping, but he ended up getting suspended. Oh my God, I can't think of who it is.
It wasn't Kareem Hunt, obviously.
I think it was. That's who it was.
Was it Kareem Hunt?
That's who it was. That's exactly who it was. It was Kareem Hunt.
Got it.
Remember when Kareem Hunt?
You're right. I forgot about that. Was separate. Yeah,
yep.
I forgot. That was separate from his incident with the lady, with his girlfriend. He had another incident where someone was like literally heckling him and calling him the N-word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's that fine line between, especially as being an African American, an African American professional athlete.
Yeah.
It's that fine line between being a professional and then being a man.
Yep.
Because as the professional athlete, for whatever reason, people think that, you're just supposed to sit there and take it because
be the bigger man.
You're like some type of authority and this and that and everything else. But the man's like, man, this girl just called me the N-word. I'm finna smack the absolute hell out of her. And Kareem Hunt kind of jumped that line and went to the man side. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
almost lost his career. Almost lost his career. I mean, that's another thing, is just imagine the uproar if Russell Westbrook went up in those stands and got his hands on this guy who put popcorn on him. You know?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying, because now people are like, and this is why Ron Artest ran into the stand.
Yep. Yeah, because you know what, dude? If you think you could do some shit like that to me and think I'm not gonna run up in the stands, that's what happens. People think that they have this free pass. Oh, I'm up here, he's down there. I'm just gonna throw popcorn at him. No one's gonna say anything. And it's like, yeah, something can happen.
Right, exactly. And that's even like in professional wrestling, bro. Professional wrestlers always say you can boo, you can cheer, you can hiss. You can say whatever you want to a heightened extent. You can do a lot of things. You bought the ticket. That is your right. When you buy that seat, you can do whatever you want within the confines of that seat.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute you cross that line, then there's that professional athlete to a man. That's like the infamous story when Stone Cold wrestled Triple H at a house show,
mm-hmm.
and some fan jumped in the ring. And the minute he jumped in the ring, Triple H
started
actually
beating
had
the
to
shit out of
break
him.
kayfabe so he could beat the hell out of him from going in there. Once you cross the barrier, you fair game. It's the same way in the NBA, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just throw something at somebody and think that all of a sudden, well, he's an athlete. He can't come in the stands.
Yeah.
Not no real G like Ron or Meta World Peace or whatever we're calling him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He went right up there.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, I don't know where, like, people got this notion where even though I bought the ticket, I can do whatever I want. No, you can do a lot of things that most professional athletes expect, but you can't cross the line and just think, oh, it's like being the Secret Service in England.
Right,
do anything you want to those guys, but the minute you touch them, it's your ass.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, Nick, you have to, like, I'm not a drinker, so this doesn't affect me very much. But man, oh man, when some of these guys get drinks in them, you start to think that the world revolves around you, and that this is I'm at the game and I just had 6 beers and I'm gonna spit on Trae Young because I'm a Knick, and really you and I both know what the headlines would look like if Trae Young just turned around and socked that dude in the fucking face like he should have.
Yeah.
It would have been Trae Young crossed the line here. He should have never, and really it's a lose-lose for these athletes, and that's what really sucks is, we hold them to the standard of, well, you have to be their bigger man, you have to be the professional, you have to do this, and you're the one making the money, and they're paying,
because my son looks up to you.
Yeah, and it's like, what's gonna happen if my son saw you run into the stands? Well, you would tell your son that dude just spit on him, and if you teach your son, if anybody ever spits on you, like if my son ever came to me and said, why did he do that? I said, because somebody spit on him. And if anybody ever spits on you, you make sure to do the same fucking thing, because I don't want anybody spitting or throwing anything on my son. So if this is about the kids and you guys want to make this think about the children, do a better job as a parent and don't raise these jackasses to think that they're privileged enough and the world revolves around them because I paid $1,000 for these seats and I'm 2 rows back, so I get to do whatever I want. And it's like, no, that's not how this works, bro. Like you I'm happy he's banned indefinitely, but I would also be a lot happier if again MSG and New York and Trae Young did something here to really set a precedent to say, dude, if you even think about doing some shit like this to a pro athlete, there's precedent set here. So but yeah, we're not going to spend too much time on the 76ers Wizards series. I mean, I really think the 76ers are going to sweep, but if they don't sweep, it'll be in the next couple of games. But the last one that we haven't talked about,
Russell Westbrook has that one game where like
he's going to have 50.
Like 30, 20 triple-double. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, don't count the Wizards out yet. And then, bang, they're out in 5.
And, the Wizards, honestly, if they just built a better team, like if they had just – they were going into the season thinking – we're going to tank a little bit, maybe trade Beal, maybe trade Westbrook. And they were dismantling pieces. And remember, they traded with the Bulls to get Daniel Gafford and some of these other guys. And, like, they weren't even anticipating to go on the run that they did to make the playoffs. But if they had just brought in an NBA-level center, I know they had Thomas Bryant, who's a really nice young prospect. He was out for the year early in the first 3 weeks. But if they just had an NBA center that could guard Joel Embiid for half the game, they might have a chance in these games. But the problem is, it's just Philadelphia is just too big too.
So let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. I'm getting all these notifications that the Yankees, for whatever reason, didn't know that there was a game today. Didn't feel like showing up because the Detroit Tigers, of all the teams we can be getting beat right now, we can sweep the first place White Sox.
Yeah,
but we can't beat the Detroit Tigers, bro.
You guys at home?
We'll get into them later.
Yeah,
no, it's in Detroit.
It's in Detroit. Okay.
We'll get into them. Later.
Okay,
but this is what I was saying. I heard a small rumor. Okay, so before I say that, to answer your question, when you say NBA center, an NBA already established center, or can I get 2 or 3 years before this person blossoms center? And the reason why I asked that is because there's a small rumor that James Wiseman might be on the block if the price is right.
Yeah. And to me, what I mean is Robin Lopez, for example. this guy is an NBA center, right? But
Right.
is he a guy that you can depend on to have 25, 30 minutes a night and be an anchor down low? Probably not. He's going to give you that once every 5 games, but the assembly of this Washington team, first of all, they're made to play small ball. They're made to play really small ball with one center and essentially 4 guards and forwards, slashers. So with Russell, they brought in Daniel Gafford to be a nice little, alley-oop mate with him. But Gafford can't guard any big man in this league. That's why the Bulls traded him. I mean, I look at this Bulls Reddit, and you would think that the world was exploding. Daniel Gafford's going to be an all-star. Everybody that we trade, Wendell Carter looks good in Orlando. Why did we trade? And it's just crazy to look at the way that some people evaluate this talent, and you go, Daniel Gafford can't catch a cold in the paint. His hands are like brick. The guy can't play defense. He doesn't move laterally. He's not in the mold of what you want in a center. And especially, I talked about it earlier in this year, Nick, when we kept playing, the Bulls kept playing Jokic and Towns and Embiid and some of these centers that they're just one of a kind. You need a center to play. So like I'm thinking in the mold of like Enes Kanter. I'm thinking in the mold of like a guy who maybe isn't starting right now, but is a starting level type of guy. And I think Washington, obviously, it's easy for me to say here late in the season, but they just didn't assemble a team that has that type of defensive anchor. And let's be honest, Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook are nice, but are they nice enough to outscore the other team every single game? Probably not.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
But to the Wiseman thing, who are you thinking for Wiseman? Because, I mean, that's a really interesting one, because I did hear that about Golden State, that they're having sort of second thoughts about the construction of the team. And, Draymond is another big one for them. They're going to have a big, decision to make with Draymond. But what do you think for James Wiseman right now?
I mean, think about it. If that's the case, if Draymond, if there's uncertainty there, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't think that Washington,
they're a middling team. They're not. They're not a team that's assembled to be a winner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think what you said about the way that they snuck. Oh no, not so much the way they snuck in, but where they are now to where they thought they were going to be is not on the same page. Because you're right. Yeah. I think that they only traded John Wall for Russell Westbrook because maybe they would have gotten a better package than maybe what Houston was looking for.
Right.
Because Houston, I think, just wanted out of Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take on John Wall. We just don't want to deal with Russ.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll swap contracts, and just for consolation, I'll throw you a first round or a second round draft pick or whatever it was, and we'll just swap. Okay, fine. So then Washington's like, okay, we'll trade Westbrook too, but we're not going to ask for the entire flipping farm. We'll take a couple of picks if you want to. Yeah. And I think that would have been cool if they didn't get hot as fast as they did around the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, well, we really can't disassemble this team now. And Bradley Beal went from, damn, I wish I could get out of Washington, to, I guess I'm just fine right here. I'll just play this out, see where we go.
Right.
So I'm with you. I think Washington snuck in, got hot, but playing a clearly unmatched Philadelphia team. So, yeah, I like your assessment on that. I agree with you 100%, where I don't even think Washington even thought that Westbrook, let alone or Bradley Beal, would even be on this team.
Yeah.
So that could be one. But then again, I was listening, and I take what Colin Cowherd says to, with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Here's the guy that said that the Golden State Warriors should severely think about moving on from Steph Curry.
Yeah, that's stupid.
That you may have seen the best days of Steph Curry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it sounds dumb, sounds foolish, but I mentioned last week where Max Kellerman has been on the same rant for at least 3 weeks, that he believed that Steph Curry wasn't even the best player, maybe even on his own team, let alone LeBron James, in the 3 championships he beat LeBron James for.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you go out there and here's your time to shine, and you lose to the Los Angeles Lakers because LeBron James is the king of the NBA. And then, oh, by the way, you may have heard of him, Ja Morant goes earthly nuclear on your dumbasses.
Yeah.
Maybe Max Kellerman isn't too wrong.
Yeah.
Dude, Steph Curry can shoot the ball out of the gym. That's all we talk about Steph Curry for. We don't talk about defense. We don't even, for what it's worth, talk about his leadership. Because Steph Curry doesn't really say too much out there on the floor. All we know about Steph is that's okay, who said it? Who said the quote? Chris Paul. Chris Paul came out and said that the only thing Steph Curry does better than I do is shoot the ball at a consistent clip for as far as he can shoot the ball. Where is he wrong?
Yeah.
Because I see Chris Paul take a Phoenix team to the 2nd seed, even though they're going to lose to the Lakers here pretty soon, take this team to the 2nd best record in the West.
Yeah. And if you need any more
Steph
proof of
Curry
that,
could even get his guys out of the playoffs.
True. Yeah. And if you need any more proof of what you're talking about, as soon as Chris Paul got hurt, the Phoenix Suns look like a completely different team and look ultimately beatable. So, I think, first of all, I think one thing that people are taking out of context right now with Golden State and people are forgetting because it's out of sight, out of mind, the Clay issue. That's a real big issue right now. The guy has missed 3 years in the last 4. That is some pretty serious time off. And by the way, Golden State, the GM, came out and said he's not going to be ready for next season, for the beginning of next season. So first of all, I think you have to take everything into context. Golden State was not assembled to be this team, right? This team was supposed to be Clay's coming back. We've got an extra shooter now in Wiggins, and then Clay gets hurt. They acquire Oubre, and they try and patch together what they can. Steph gets hurt sometimes. Other guys get hurt, but also really I think the real catalyst for this, and the reason why I'm poo-pooing the idea of trading Steph, is because first of all you have no reason to, and second of all, it doesn't make your team better at this point. I think, to me, you have to see what this team looks like if and when Clay comes back. And also, I have to see what they're going to do with Draymond Green, because I get it. Draymond is not going to be a 20-point scorer. He's never going to average 20 points in this league. But the absolute disrespect that teams show when they play Golden State, and they just there's not a defender within 5.5 to 6 feet of Draymond, because they don't care. They really don't care if he scores. If he tries to score, he can do whatever the hell he wants. And that's how teams beat Golden State. And until Golden State goes back to the drawing board and figures out how to change that, trading Steph Curry isn't going to be a thing. But I agree with you. I think it sounds crazier to say it, but in reality, Golden State's no closer to an NBA championship than they were when Kevin Durant left, and not even an inch closer. And that's a little bit troubling to say. So as much as things, and by the way, if Clay comes back and has a good season next year, and Draymond comes back and can be the facilitator, point forward type guy, and then Steph can stay healthy, we could be talking about a 50-60 win team next year, right? So I think you have to really take all of this with a grain of salt. You can't really look at this and say this is the Golden State team or this is the Steph team. Like, let's be honest, dude. The way that the Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies, and shout out to the Memphis Grizzlies, dude. Shout out to Taylor Jenkins, I think is his name. Dude, that defensive game plan that they put together for Golden State in that playing game was fucking masterful. And you mentioned it. Ja Morant is not playing around with these dudes anymore. He is going to be a superstar in this league, and people, it's hard to believe it's only his second year in the league, or I'm sorry, I think this would be his third, I think, second year
because he was in the same draft with Zion.
Right? Okay, so I mean, in terms of like what this kid can do, he's still only like this much closer to where he was. And just imagine when his jump shot starts getting better and teams have to start respecting him more from the perimeter. Because remember, like, they don't really respect his three-point shot. He'll shoot it occasionally, he'll make it occasionally, but nobody's respecting his shot right now. Once they respect his shot, we're looking at a guy who has Russell Westbrook type abilities. So yeah, I think in terms of Golden State, man, it's hard to really make a judgment on them this year, but I agree with you. I think, in the larger scheme, you have to start to look at the way that teams are constructed right now, and all these teams that are constructed around 40+ million deals, 40+ million a year deals with guys like Steph. Dude, you have to start to look at options and say, shit, can we afford to pay this guy 40, possibly 45 million in the next couple of years? That's a really tough. And to go back to Washington, remember they traded John Wall over to Houston, and Houston said he's not coming back next year. So John Wall is very likely to be a free agent next year because Houston's just like, you know what, why bring him back? And I don't blame them for that. And they're just going to continue to try and build. And Oklahoma City and Houston, you're not going to see much out of them for the next 2 years, but dude, in 20, their number one pick is in middle school right now. But once they get that middle schooler up to the NBA level, both of those teams are going to be really well equipped because they both have cap flexibility and lots of obviously draft picks. I mean, Oklahoma City has I think 20 something draft picks in the next couple of years.
Jesus, I know.
So it's going to be insane to see. I also. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, because I want to wrap up with the East so we can head out west, and I just want to talk to you about the Celtics and Nets series, because obviously, the first couple games were laughers. I mean, we're seeing what this Boston team looks like without Jaylen Brown. It's really, really tough for them to have a lot of offensive firepower with just Jason Tatum, and let's be honest, Kemba Walker is a shell of himself at this point.
Yeah, exactly, and it's so funny because you know what stories I hate, and maybe you'll agree with me on this. I hate those stories where a guy who was a said free agent comes out, and says, I don't want to go back home and play for the New York Knicks. Then goes and signs with the Boston Celtics. Then after knowing that the Knicks kind of need a point guard and you kind of suck right now, all of a sudden it's I wouldn't mind going over there.
Yeah.
You just said you didn't want to go do so. Kemba Walker kissed my ass for it. And look, I love Kemba. Everyone knows I'm a huge UConn basketball fan. I have been since 1999, so it's nothing new. But you miss me if you're gonna honestly sit there and tell me that I just lost my train of thought. Crap. What was I just talking about?
No, you were saying how he basically said he didn't want to go there.
Yeah. Yes, my bad. My UConn affiliation. Yeah. So, yes, I love Kemba Walker, but, bro, you suck.
Yeah, he's not good right now. You are not,
dude, and I don't know why, and how salty do you have to be? Like, how much more rope are you going to keep giving Danny Ainge?
Yeah.
When a guy gets rid of Terry Rozier, who's having not too bad of a season down in Charlotte.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're struggling with Kemba Walker, who just came from Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
So you already just had a guy, and you let everyone pressure you because after the Kyrie thing failed, you had to find another guy to prove something to myself, and this isn't working out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, dude. Look at it like this. The Brooklyn Nets, bro, they're like Drago in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
Because in the first two games, I wish you could have seen. That's why I can't wait till we get to baseball. I wish you could have seen my timeline when the Nets won that second game.
Yeah.
I bet you there won't be another team out there that beats the Brooklyn Nets because they might as well just sweep all the way to the finals. Because who's going to be KD and James Harden and Kyrie on the same damn court? Yak. And Jason Tatum put up, what, 50 on him? Almost 50 on him?
Yeah.
Give me a flipping break. Dude, the Boston Celtics are rocky, and they just cut Drago. The Brooklyn Nets are not favorites in the East. I don't know why people keep thinking they're going to be favorites in the East. And let me just say this. Not all big threes win their titles in their first reign. They all can't be Boston, bro.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good
You get what I'm
point.
saying?
And also this team specifically, Nick, it's really important to mention that Durant, Harden, and Kyrie have not had a lot of games together. So if Nets fans are super confident about this big three, good for you. But man, we haven't even seen enough games with them three on the court at the same time for you to even make a judgment on this. So I agree with it. I think, and it just goes to show, first of all, that, and I agree with you about Danny Ainge. I mean, like, this even goes back to the Daniel Tice trade, where he traded Daniel Tice for really no reason. He was a defensive anchor for the team for the last 4 years. Every single person on the team after they traded him was really upset and basically said as much that they understood why they made the trade, because they wanted to give Robert Williams more time. They wanted to give some of these young guys more time. But dude, if you're trying to win, a championship, which is what Danny Ainge has been saying he's been trying to do, and you trade a defensive anchor for pretty much nothing. I mean, we gave up a couple of big men as a result, but other than that, nothing. That's what's going to happen. And in terms of Brooklyn, they don't have to play a perfect game to win, but it's getting more to the point where it's like, and I don't know if you noticed this as well, it seems like they're playing more defense now during the playoffs, which is all fine and dandy, because remember, everyone was really criticizing them about their lack of effort and lack of defense, and this isn't going to work if they're going to play defense. And their defense was pretty good the first two games, just effort-wise. It wasn't really even like a skill thing. It was just more so they wanted to play defense. And I'm sorry, but if you're a team that is able to mentally, and your coach, Steve Nash, and your assistant coach, Mike D'Antoni, are telling you can throttle up and down on defense, and like, hey, maybe don't play so much defense here. You know what? Play extra. That's not how this works. Like, you can't be an NBA team and say, I'm not going to play defense for the last half of the season. I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll start playing defense in the playoffs. That's not how this works. So,
Right.
And I can't imagine what the series would look like with Jaylen Brown. And I'll be honest with you, I do think Brooklyn's going to win this series, just simply because I attribute a lot of this. Kyrie, to me, man, is a really interesting guy. I think he, a lot of people have a lot of, bad things to say about him. I have less bad things to say about him. The only thing I can say about him is the dude's kind of weird. The dude is not really, he's not in the mold of what you would usually see as a basketball player, right? The guy's a lot more wear his heart on his sleeve, a lot more affected. And, basketball players and athletes in general have to put up this wall that they are sort of this, impenetrable. Nobody's ever going to get to me. And Kyrie is very much the opposite. He's very much like honest about the fact that, he has had struggles this season, and talked about the Boston thing. And it was very clear when you watch that game, his first game back in Boston, with the playoff series, that he was uncomfortable. He was bad. He just wasn't making the shots that he was supposed to be making. And even so, I'll be honest with you, Celtics only won by 6, and it took an almost perfect game by the Celtics, right? So I agree with you. I think everybody that's ready to crown Brooklyn right now is crazy, especially looking at the way that these, pretty much every team right now, Nick, has had ups and downs in the playoffs. I mean, we're talking about the Lakers starting off bad, and now, there's a lot of people in that play-in game against Golden State who are saying it's over. They can barely beat Golden State. They can barely beat, these teams that they need to beat. And in reality, the Suns are a tough-ass team, dude. This is not your grandfather's or your father's Suns team. Like, this is a hard-nosed, really good and skilled team with lots and lots of talented players. And it took basically, somebody tearing Chris Paul's arm off to really get them to play at a lower level. So everybody ready to crown Brooklyn right now is severely mistaken.
Severely mistaken, because they almost may not even be the best team playing in the East right now.
Yeah, no, and the way that the Bucks just dispatched the Heat, you have to start to look at them in that same category.
And that's why I'm saying I think that matchup might be the best matchup going into the second round, if it does end up being Brooklyn versus Milwaukee, because they're so evenly matched. But I think defensively and size, that's why I'm saying this is why I think Mark Budenholzer can make his money. This is the time where now I can start eating crow and saying that I don't think that you're an overrated coach. because as I mentioned earlier, we've seen this movie before where you're taking top teams and you're not going anywhere. So I need you at some point, you got to be better. So
definitely.
we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Brooklyn's is winning the series. I think that game against Boston in Game 3 could end up being a fluke. But here's the crazy part: if Boston ends up winning this one, then the both of us saying like, hey, maybe Brooklyn isn't the dominant Drago or the almighty Zeus in that movie with Hugh Jackman. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The robot movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Ready Player
I Am
One
Steel or something like that. I Am Steel.
Yeah.
Real Steel. That's what it's
Real
called.
Steel.
Steel. Okay. So, or the almighty Zeus. This basketball team can be beat.
Yeah.
And think about it. A buddy of mine who is a huge Brooklyn Nets fan even came out and said like, hey, Joe Harris, Mr. Automatic 3 has been anything but automatic.
Yeah, they can't.
So if my bench if he can't score coming off the bench, dude, we're screwed.
Yeah, no, and definitely.
It's a legit concern.
And what it took, it took 40. It took 39 from Durant and 41 from Harden to even come close to being in the game, and they still lost by 6. So that's not good news if you're Brooklyn. And also, I mean, we say, basketball fans say this all the time. It's not a series until the home team loses, right? So the home team hasn't lost yet in that series, and if Celtics come out and win the next game at home, all they have to do is win one road game, and they're good. So, I while I do think it's a little bit, I do think Brooklyn's better, they're by no means out of the woods right now with this matchup. And also, you have to take into consideration, Milwaukee's going to be chilling at home until this series is done, and Brooklyn could really use that time off too. So yeah, I think it's important to note that Brooklyn isn't exactly a shoo-in quite yet. And you mentioned, because I want to go out west, because I watched a little bit of the show last week, and I heard you kind of go off on the Clippers, and I was just smiling and laughing throughout the whole thing because, if there isn't one example of a dumber ownership, front office, coaching staff, I mean, the Clippers might just be the worst in terms of the types of decisions that they, first of all, to tank the last couple of games in order to avoid the Lakers and almost look at the Mavericks as a better matchup for themselves, and then to get pantsed by the Mavericks at home twice in a row. I mean, obviously they won their game yesterday pretty handily against well, actually, let me take that back. The first 3 quarters were really damn close, and in fact, Dallas was really, was in control for the first quarter, but the Clippers just kind of came back and took over and won it in the fourth quarter. But man, Ty Lue, I mean, all of the things that we say about him and the kind of the shortcomings of him right on display every single time he goes out. Apparently things aren't going too well in the locker room right now. I mean, they were upset with Patrick Beverley because of how vocal he is and how kind of, he's so involved in some of the drama that they have. And then they go ahead and trade for Rajon Rondo, who's essentially the same type of basketball player. So now Rondo's fighting with Ty Lue and fighting with Marcus Morris and fighting with Paul George. It's just a dumpster fire. And honestly, Dallas had a really awesome opportunity to almost put like the dagger halfway in the back last night and weren't able to do it. So we'll see what happens with that series. But man, the Clippers look really dumb right now.
Stupid, bro. I almost wish Dallas would have went ahead and beat them so we could tear into some more this week. But dude, I don't understand that. And then, okay, well, first off, okay, bro, this is why I don't like watching ESPN coverage or analysis when it comes to the NBA. I'll tell you why. New York Knicks fired Jeff Hornacek. Next day on ESPN, I got a name that you could, Jalen Rose. I got a name you can bring out there that I'm bringing in there, David Fishdale.
Oh my God.
Perfect guy for that job. Jackass didn't last a year and a half. Bro, he barely made 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
That's how much that bad boy worked out, right? Right?
Yeah.
Same old difference. After Ty Lue gets fired out of out of Cleveland. Why? Because he's not a head coach.
Yeah.
Los Angeles Clippers part ways with Doc Rivers. ESPN, Jay Williams. I got a guy you can bring in. I think it would be a great fit for them. How about Ty Lue? Dude, ESPN be recommending these guys because they're friends.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're friends with
That's
them.
all it is.
Yeah,
it's because they're friends.
Yeah.
Okay? Dude, Ty Lue is not a head coach. You want to know why Ty Lue has a ring? It's the same reason why Kyrie has a ring.
Yeah.
It's because of LeBron James.
And David
and
Blatt.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
Nobody else. So Ty Lue is lucky he was able to be a coach on that team. That's why he was crying so hard on the sideline. He wasn't crying because Cleveland won. He was crying because this was the only chance I had to get in the ring, because I know he ain't coming back next year. And they did, and they still lost, and he ain't see no ring after that. So every time he looks at his hand, he should send a text message to LeBron James saying, thank you. Yeah. Now, while I'm on the same rant, let me get on Kyrie real quick before I get back on the Clippers.
Yeah, please.
The only reason why you have a ring, and just hearing your stat about Harden and Kevin Durant is about to further prove my point why I think Kyrie should put a foot in his mouth and shut up. I got me a guy that I could finally make that shot for. Oh my God, you're right. Because if I'm 6'8", 260 and get to the hole too, guess what? I'm going to get double teamed, and I'm going to pass you the ball and hope that you can make a jump shot. Yeah. That you did. You could thank LeBron James for being so great to put you in a situation to hit that three in the first place.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kyrie, great score, great handles, ain't winning without a LeBron, ain't winning without a KD.
Yeah, he's not a number one. Because he
took his talents to Cleveland, and they sucked, and before LeBron showed up, and then he went to Boston, and he sucked there too. So I'm going to start saying big two, because I'm keeping Kyrie out of that list until I see otherwise. But dude, Tyronn Lue is not a head coach, bro. No. You want to know what Tyronn Lue is famous for? Being stepped over by AI in the 2001 NBA Finals. That's what Tyronn Lue is famous for.
And let's be honest,
coaching qualities.
Let's be honest about the because, I think the only example that goes against what I'm about to say is Eric Spoelstra, but pretty much every coach throughout LeBron's career has been an assistant coach. Has been a guy who's like, you are a facilitator. I'm going to go ahead and give you everything that you need, LeBron. You are our head coach, essentially. I'm going to give you everything you need to make this happen. And I think Spoelstra has broken out of that mold the way that he's coached over the last couple of years. But every other example that you can give, I mean, even to a T right now with the Lakers and their coaching staff, let's be honest about the history, and his name is escaping me, but I know he coached in Indiana for a long time. What's the Lakers coach?
McMillan?
No, what's the name of the Lakers coach again? I always
Frank
forget
Vogel.
Him. Frank Vogel. A guy that was like with the Pacers for quite a while, never won anything, and then was out of the league for like 2 or 3 years. And they bring him back, and a lot of people were going, well, why did they bring him back? And it was very clear why they brought him back last year. He's a very good kind of corraler, leader. He's passionate. He sticks up for his players. He does a good job of understanding the dynamics of the team and of the game. But in terms of like X's and O's, is this guy writing up, every single little play and making things happen in that way? No, because a lot of what when you have LeBron James on your team, a lot of what you have to do is just listen to him and have him tell you what he needs. So I agree with that. I think Ty, the one question I have about this Clippers team is, and maybe yesterday sort of threw a wrench into what I'm about to say. Excuse me. Kawhi has an opt-out after this season.
He does.
Let me ask you. I'll ask you two questions. First one, if in another hypothetical universe, Dallas won yesterday, and the Clippers get swept, if you're Kawhi, are you leaving?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's pretty. I think both you and I agree with this. Now, let's say they won yesterday like the Clippers did, and they still lose this series. So they end up losing 4-1 instead of 4-0. Do you leave if you're Kawhi? Because that's the real question, right?
Okay, before I can answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, I can answer this. As a matter of fact, I only have to answer the question. I'm actually going to give you yes and no.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, if they get blown out the next 2 games.
I see. Okay.
If they look like total ass, bro, and let's not act like these athletes don't check social media. If Kawhi go on there and he's the meme, like his laugh for an L situation, gone.
Yeah.
Okay. No, if the Clippers show some kind of fight.
Right.
Because then somewhere, Kawhi is gonna say, "Okay, it's Tyron's first year. We'll implement the system with us. Let's make a couple more pieces. But if we suck next year, because I think he's got to opt out continuously for the next couple years."
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he has the chance to opt out in the next 2 years.
Right. So let's say if he feels like they're one piece away, because we just got out hustled by a Dallas Mavericks team. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and by the way, the other 5 seed Hawks team just took out the Knicks. If we're playing that scenario, then you would be like, okay, I'll stay and let's get a couple more pieces. But if I just got my ass whooped in 2 games and playoff P looks like way off P and Luka's getting did by Patrick Beverly and get punked, and there's not a soul that comes and defends and gets in the face of Luka to check Patrick Beverly. I don't know if you've noticed that Luka's been punking the shit out of Patrick Beverly.
Oh yeah.
Telling him how small he is. And there's not a single Clipper, even the tough-nosed Marcus Morris does not come in the aid of Patrick Beverly. Should tell you how much of a not head coach Tyronn Lue is.
And Pat Beverly's awfully quiet when he's getting punked by Luka. This is a dude with the biggest mouth in the league, and he's awfully he's not as demonstrative when Luka's putting him on a poster pretty much every single play. And what we're seeing right now is, first of all, the coming out party of Luka, and just a lot of people were thinking, this guy's really good. Is this guy a superstar? Is he one of the best in the league, or is it maybe just the league hasn't adjusted to him? And I think the answer is very clear right now. This guy is going to be one of the best players, a top 3 player in the league for the next 10 to 15 years. And and I think Atlanta, Sacramento, who else was in that draft, should be ashamed of themselves for not selecting. I think it was, who was the first pick that year?
Oh, this is gonna drive me nuts.
I'm gonna look it up first because Atlanta, listening to Quavo and drafting Trae Young, and then Sacramento
traded for Trae.
Right, so they had a chance. They had Luka, and then decided not to take him. So that's egregious. And then Marvin Bagley. I mean, no matter how good Marvin Bagley turns out to be, that is always going to be a major, major, major fail for Sacramento. And it was 2019 that happens. Who was 2019? Or I'm sorry, it was a 2018 draft, so let's just get it out of the way because it's going to bother me too if I don't it was Ayton. It was a year of Ayton. So you know what? The Suns, the Suns, the way that Ayton's playing in the playoffs right now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that you got a 7-footer with that type of skill set, that type of footwork, go ahead. But then Marvin Bagley, in the second pick, absolutely crazy. Then Atlanta has the 3rd pick and decides to trade back to basically select Trae Young. That was just a complete huge mistake. And so to get back to my point, when you look at the way that Dallas is playing, and you see that basically Luka's putting him on the back with Porzingis has not been playing that well. I mean, let's be honest, Porzingis. If you're a Knicks fan, you just got to be really happy that you diagnosed that issue when you did, and not a year, 2 years, 3 years after. Because first of all, what we're seeing is that remember what they kept saying about him is that once Kristaps puts on muscle, once he keeps putting on weight, it's going to take 2 or 3 years. He's going to have to progressively put on 20, 30, 40 pounds, and he's going to be good. And what we're seeing very, very easily is that the mobility that he showed with New York in his career when he was really crazy with the Knicks has now gone away, and he's fragile. Seems to be limping on almost every single play. He's getting punked by guys that are 6 inches shorter than him, and in reality, Luka's basically doing this by himself with some of these other shooters. So the Clippers, I think, and Kawhi in specific, has to look at that and go, dude, we can barely beat one guy. We just imagine if the Clippers somehow squeak past the Mavericks and miraculously make it to the next round, they're gonna get embarrassed in the next round no matter who they play. So if you're Kawhi, and I heard some stuff about the Heat, that he's very, very close friends with, or very closer friends with Jimmy Butler, but why would he go there now? After they just basically shat the bed in the first round, there's no reason to go there. So the options, I think he has to start to look. We'll obviously know what this looks like once, if and when they get eliminated. But Kawhi has to start to look at some options, because New York, Chicago, even there's a lot of teams in the West that can afford him next year if they just make some moves. And, on top of that, there's going to be some teams that are on their way up. And like I said, I think the Knicks are an example of a team that can do some reshuffling to accommodate a Kawhi Leonard. So he has to look long and hard, because right now, I think it's pretty clear that he made a mistake leaving Toronto.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, and here's the crazy thing too. Kawhi has somewhat called the shots per se. I don't know if he had his hand in the Tyronn Lue,
right.
In the Ty Lue hiring, but I know he had a lot to do with Paul George being there.
Oh yeah, that was his. Remember what he told the Clippers? I'm only coming if you trade for Paul George. So that was a huge thing, that a huge hand that Kawhi had in that.
Exactly, and it's not really working out that well.
Oh, no, not at all.
And I think that's. I would love for Kawhi Leonard to come to New York if, and I specify heavily on if, he was to opt out in LA, as long as he comes to New York and just plays with the Knicks. We have Leon Rose for a reason. We still have Scott Perry for a reason. And we have Tibbs as coach for a reason. So that 3-headed monster right there is the reason why the Knicks were the 4th seed in the East. Okay, so all I'm asking you to do is just come play small guard with us, bring RJ Barrett underneath your wing, and let's just go on from there. That's all I need. I don't need no input. I don't need your player input. I don't need who I think we might need. I just need you to come and play the amazing defense. Oh, and by the way, for a guy that's a real defensive expert, allow you to meet our defensive expert head coach in Tom Thibodeau. Y'all might know one another, so I'm gonna let you guys stay in the lab, and I'm gonna go back upstairs, and I'm gonna go cut checks.
That's a very underrated. That's an underrated factor, though. The fact that Kawhi can come and play for a defensive-minded head coach, I think, makes a lot of difference in this decision.
Yep. And the reason why I bring that up is because the next series that I really want to talk about, and I'm keeping my ear on, is that Denver-Portland series.
Yeah.
I am praying to the high heavens that Denver beats the brakes off of Portland so bad that Damian Lillard would have the audacity to go to the front office and say, I want out.
Or the front office comes to him and says, this shit ain't working out. Yeah.
If Leon Rose is not on that phone in less than a half second after he hears that news, fire him.
Something's wrong, yeah.
Okay? I got the 19th, 21st, 32nd. I got a couple of young studs you might want to keep.
And take some future picks, too.
And I'll throw you some future picks for Damian Lillard, because the New York Knicks already said that they will take on a disgruntled superstar with a big contract that does not want to stay.
Yeah.
How much more disgruntled and big star contract can you be than Damian Lillard? Bro, I swear to God, if Damian Lillard was traded to the New York Knicks, I would immediately call you and call Steve and say, go to the studio now.
Right now.
We have to do an emergency show, and it will be the greatest celebration ever because I would lose my stuff, bro. The Knicks need a point guard so bad. Love Derrick Rose. He's best with the second unit. The Knicks need a star felicitating point guard. Remember my criticism of Julius Randle before was like, I don't like when he plays that point power forward crap.
Right.
I still don't like him playing the point power forward crap.
Yeah.
So bring in a point guard that could felicitate everything. That all Julius has to do is just get to the spot.
Right. Or find your shot, or I agree with you. And by the way, if you guys missed it, the Trailblazers won earlier today, so they beat the brakes. Yeah, they beat the brakes off of Denver, so the series is tied off of 2-2. So the Blazers won 115-95. They'll go back to Denver for Game 5, I believe, or for Game 5. Game 5 is going to be actually on Tuesday, and they'll go back to Denver before they play 2 in Portland. So that threw a little bit of a wrench into your plan, but I'm 100% on board with you. I think
not necessarily, bro.
No, you're right. You're right.
2-2,
No, you're right. It's only 2-2, but also I think, first of all, what really worries me about that scenario is that I really, really, really do genuinely think that Damian Lillard is cut from a different cloth than the rest of these guys. Like, I really think that this guy is first of all, he's an Oakland guy. He's a dude that just, he's got grit, and he's got everything. He's got the chip on his shoulder eternally for the way that he came into this league. People remember that he was underdrafted. He was really underrated. Nobody really expected much out of him. A lot of what they were talking about with him was that, he'd be a good spark plug off the bench one day, and next thing you know, he turns into one of the best players in the league. And I really do think he does value Portland in that way because they gave him that chance, and he's come out and talked about his loyalty to Portland. And I think what you're talking about is realistic if we're talking about Portland losing this series and then going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? And when you look at the
same result.
expecting different results, but you're always going to get the same result out of this type of team. And this type of team, what I'm talking about is, first of all, I think they should trade McCollum. I think it's time to bring him another backcourt guy that can help him, because right now, this idea that you can have 2 scoring guards on the floor at the same time is tough. You have to have a guy that can be more well-rounded that's in the backcourt with him. So I think Portland has a long sort of evaluation that they have to do if this series doesn't go right. But I think in terms of like Damian opting out or Damian saying he's going to move on, to me, man, this guy, again, it goes back to me thinking he's just cut from a different cloth. I think he would rather stick it out in Portland and try and make something happen,
Now, I agree with you on all that. But remember, this is the same Damian Lillard that came out and said that he was one player away from almost being the New York Knicks in the first place.
True.
Now, so basically what he said was the incompetent staff almost got me. But this competent staff, he's not saying that. I'm saying this competent staff might actually get me. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But I'm just playing fantasy because I know what my team wants, and I'm just throwing a scenario out there. But what I will say though is, bro, I know we're not supposed to judge the MVP until after the regular season.
Yeah.
How bad would it be if we're sitting here hyping up Nikola Jokic to be, the next great center since, Hakeem Olajuwon and whatnot? And You just lost in the first round to a team that's not better than you are.
Yeah.
Like, think about that for a second. Like, I understand they lost Jamal Murray and everything. And,
that's
they tried to bring in Austin Rivers. I mean, he's not the replacement of Jamal Murray, but it's still a huge loss.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, though, they still held it together. I mean, good enough to be, third in the East?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and also, I think, listen, with Denver, they've got to find an identity themselves too. Like, it can't be that you lose Jamal Murray and then you have to change your whole game plan. Like that shouldn't be the case, right? Like, this idea that now Michael Porter has to come in and be this, like, point forward who can also play on the perimeter, but is also going to be a slasher, but is also going to play defense. Like, it's just, they're asking too much of, too little. And also, like, let's be honest about what Nikola is. He is a tremendous regular season talent. And what you're seeing now is that when teams focus on him and make him the focal point of their attention on defense, it's very hard for him. I mean, that game on Thursday, the only reason why they won, let's be honest, was Austin Rivers. He hit, I think, like 4 3-pointers in the final 6 minutes, and that really propelled them to the victory. But otherwise, Portland, you're right. I think Portland's a better team in this instance, and we're seeing right now what it looks like. Again, this just goes back to team building, dude. That's why, you want to have a guy in the front office that you can put your stamp on and go, I know this guy's going to put together a team that is going to make waves from 1 to 15, and I think the Bulls, I think, have that now in Karnisovas, who's formerly with Denver. I think the Knicks have that with Leon Rose. I think obviously we've seen plenty of other teams come together and build these really big powerhouse teams 1 to 15. I think that's what you need to get back to, because I think this whole focus on the big three is just not working. And also, I want to kind of talk to you a little bit more about the Suns-Lakers series. It's a great example of sort of what happened with the Suns when when Chris Paul goes down. Obviously, that's an irreplaceable piece. But then you got Cam Payne who has to come in. And then next thing you know, Cam Payne is not necessarily the guy I want running the offense. So now I have to have Devin Booker run my offense. But then if Devin Booker's running the offense, then he's not going off of these curls and getting the catch and shoot opportunities that you want him to get. So contingency plans now seem to be the most important thing with some of these NBA teams. And I've been impressed. I mean, I don't know about you, because, obviously, like with the whole Lakers thing, we heard it last year. Like, what did we hear last year? Oh, LeBron is done. He had that first game. I think it was a first playoff game in the bubble. He had a really rough game, and everybody was kind of looking around and going, this is the beginning of the end for the King. It's, there's no way he can be able to continue to sustain this. It's going to be really tough for him to, continue to fight through injuries. And obviously this year he had more injuries, missed more time this year than I think he has in the last couple of years. And then, that game 1 happens and the Suns win even through the Chris Paul injury, and you go, oh my God, like the Suns have it. But LeBron is, first of all, you're not going to get rid of this guy. Like, he is not going to be going away and fading off. A lot of people start to think of like guys in their late 30s and go, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And LeBron is not one of those guys you can do that with. He is, first of all, I believe he's playing at like 50% right now. I don't even think he's at 60, 70, 80%. I really do genuinely think that he's the type of guy that's like, I'm going to have to play through this, because he said it himself. I'm not going to be 100% before this season ends. And all he can do is go out there and play. So, but we saw it. Game 1, AD had struggles. A lot of the supporting cast had struggles. Then game 2 and 3 come back out, and you just take advantage of the matchups that you have with AD and with LeBron and getting these open shooters some shots. And next thing you know, boom, you're back up 2-1.
Yeah, and and I even made mention, because I watched the last 5 minutes of the game while I was waiting for an order of game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And even I meant to do the Lakers in those last 5 minutes. It was tough
ugly
to watch.
Yeah.
because it was like, okay, LeBron was doing that LeBron stuff that pisses me off.
Right.
Guys, you got a guy that's not even on your level, that shouldn't even be guarding you, bro. And you're doing all that in between the legs, jab, step, in between the legs, jab, step. And then you take a step back, fall away jump shot that's 2 inches too short, And it's just like, dude, LeBron take him to the hole. And they just looked out of sync. Like KCP was broke. And we'll get in KCP in a minute because if LeBron James is in a Lakers uniform next year, KCP will not be in a Lakers uniform by the time that dude, I've seen LeBron ripping the KCP at least once in every these 3 games, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, dude.
And that speech he gave him where people were like, he's pumping him up. No, to me, that looks like a guy who's fed up with another guy who's like, dude, I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. Like people were saying, no, that was LeBron giving him encouragement. No, that was a guy sitting another guy down and going, do your fucking job.
Like, I'll tell you what, and this happens a lot in the NBA, bro, and I don't understand what it is, but I know my squad does it, and LeBron, it happened in game 2. It was game 2, and LeBron got on KCP about it. In game 2 of the Knicks-Hawks series, I don't know whoever was doing the color commentary of that game, but at least 6 times he was getting on the Knicks for passing up good shots for a guy to make something tougher. That's what happened when LeBron was all up in KCP's face in game 2.
Yeah.
Dude, you were wide open. Why would you pass the ball again? Shoot the goddamn ball. That's why I gave it to you.
Yeah, that's one role that you have.
Right. And it seems like that in the NBA, like a guy will drive all the way to the hole, get 3 feet from the basket,
and then dribble back out to the
and does a jump cross court pass that either A's in the stands, B gets picked off, or C, it just doesn't work. And now you created a tougher shot. Bro, you 3 feet from a layup.
Yeah, just throw the ball up. Yeah.
Just throw the ball. Dude, if you looked up, I bet you would have saw the hoop and like, damn, I could have laid that in. Yeah, no kidding, genius. And dude, and that's what, but you said it right though. With the Lakers, they looked lost in game 1, but I don't know. I think AD put a lot of the pressure on himself. See, you have to look at it like this. People will say that Anthony Davis is the best player on the Lakers. I would say that Anthony Davis is taking on a leadership role in case we're seeing the last of LeBron James.
Yeah.
You're seeing the passing of the torch. LeBron James, Miami Heat, first year is talking like AD is now.
Right.
I got to be better. I got to do this. I have to be, because it's crazy. It's crazy. People will say, well, Michael Jordan, when he talked about the team, always said we. The difference is Michael Jordan didn't have a social media age where everybody with Twitter fingers with a smartphone and a keypad on it could say whatever they want with no repercussions.
Right.
They didn't have TV shows like First Take and Get Up and Undisputed where your every move is scrutinized.
Mm-hmm.
So when when LeBron James says, I have to be better, he's not saying that that it's just me. Yeah. He's saying that I have to be better for my teammates so it rubs off on them.
Right.
That's what I means. But, when you're the most hated man in the world for no apparent reason, when you're LeBron James, when you're the guy that's married to the same woman since you was in high school and you guys got a loving family, and God forbid you stand up when black people are getting killed, and God forbid
never had one incident in the media, never had one
incident in the media. Remember when they tried to drag LeBron James's name because his mom got an SUV?
The Hummer, right, yeah.
But who gives a rat's monkey ass?
Yeah.
People, it's the same privileged people who will come out and say, but I got, like, what about I can't believe I'm going off on this tangent, but I'm just going to do it right now. One of my personal favorite arguments that I can't stand to this day was when I think it was Joe Biden was going around saying, I feel like somehow we should eliminate student debt, privileged people. What about me?
Right, yeah. I paid my
through college. What about them? How about we help the ones that are in debt and then I can help your parents out. I got these guys to fix first.
Yeah, no,
you get what I'm saying?
It's silly.
So LeBron James right now has got a lot, but we all want to drag this mud on LeBron James's name. And I don't get, he flops in the NBA. Newsflash, so does 70% of the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think some of the stuff is a little bit excessive. I mean, like even some of the memes that came out about his his quote unquote flopping. Like, first of all, that first game, I don't know why everyone said he was flopping on that Chris Paul thing. Chris Paul literally almost pulled his arm out of the socket. Like, coming down, he pulled on his arm. And people who, have been in sports, or people who have watched sports for a long time, that's a fucking dangerous play to do. And you can pull someone's shoulder right out of its socket. So, there's always going to be, you know how it is, Nick. There's always going to be extra scrutiny on LeBron, because he's always going to be in the crosshairs. He's always going to be somebody people want to see fall. They always want to see LeBron fail. They always want to see him. He's finally done. That's what everyone after the first game. It's over. The Lakers are done. LeBron is finally going to show. He's showing his age. Can he even come back next year? I mean, I was watching. Some stuff about like if he comes back next year. What do you mean if he comes back next year? He's saying he wants to play the next 5 years. The guy's injured. The guy has clearly been one of the if not the best, one of the best players, top 2 players in the league in the last, 15 years? I think he deserves a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And in terms of the Lakers, Nick, I think one thing to really keep in mind about the Lakers that people are forgetting, this team is going to be very different next year. Dennis Schroeder's not coming back. He's going to get a big deal somewhere, hopefully with the Bulls. I would love for the Bulls to go after him. I think he's a perfect fit for the team. Alex Caruso apparently is going to be getting $15-20 million from another team next year. There's a lot of people who think Alex Caruso is going to get $15 to $20 million next year in free agency. Kyle Kuzma's good as gone. Marc Gasol good as gone. KCP good as gone. There's a lot of people that are on this team currently who likely won't be on this team next year. So that's another thing to keep in mind with the Lakers is it's hard to play in that type of environment. It's hard to play knowing I'm probably not going to be here next year. This is going to be my last run with this team. So I take everything that's happened with the Sun series with a grain of salt. And honestly, I'm waiting to see what things look like here. If Phoenix can take a game in LA, then all of a sudden the pressure's back on, right? But, the fact of the matter is, let's be honest, the Lakers took a game in Phoenix, and that's all they really needed to do. So you don't even really have to think about game one. Even if game one was ugly, the Lakers still did their job. They went out and got one game in Phoenix. And all they have to do is just sweep in LA, and they're in really good position. So, I think there's more to come for LeBron. You're not going to get rid of him that easily. For all the haters out there, it's going to take a long time for him to really, break out. And I think when LeBron's done, LeBron's going to know he's done. And I don't think there's going to be I don't think LeBron's going to be that guy who sticks around for 2 years too long without the ability. So, I think we'll see LeBron for quite a while here, to our detriment, obviously. And thankfully for us in our teams, he's in the West now, so you don't have to deal with him too much. But the only other series we didn't go through before we move on, because I want to talk some baseball with you. Obviously, want to talk about some early results in the NHL, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of this NFL news that's come out. We have some post June 1st cuts that are going to be happening, post June 1st trades that are going to be happening, including Julio Jones, which is looking like it's going to be inevitable. So, I want to talk to you about that, and then also want to talk to you about the Champions League final that just happened earlier today. If you guys missed it, Chelsea won 1-0 against Manchester City. So Manchester City continues their struggles in European football match.
As if my team only won like 10 games.
Yeah, no, and also I think it's stupid because, first of all, people keep forgetting to mention Donovan Mitchell didn't play in the first game, and apparently he was ready to play in the first game. He wanted to play in the first game, and the coaching staff and the medical staff held him out, and they lose the game. So to say that, Utah, just another Utah being Utah, no, they were shorthanded. Their best player wasn't available. And let's be honest, that game was still close enough where they could have won. So to me, Memphis, again, it's like another example of playing with house money. Like, dude, there's no losing for Memphis here. If they lose the rest of the games in the playoffs, it's still a successful season for them. And, I mean, remember, Nick, this is the same team that 2 years ago Mike Conley and Andre Iguodala and all these dudes were crying about leaving and saying they can't win anything. And Memphis, remember when Andre Iguodala said, I want to win something, and Memphis said, well, go fuck yourself because we're going to win something here soon, and nobody listened to them. And then the next year they're in the playoffs and they're doing their thing. So, again, Taylor Jenkins deserves a lot of credit. He's in the same mold as Eric Spoelstra. He's a guy who was a video coordinator for San Antonio and made himself into a head coach in this league, and a damn good one at that, because he flies under the radar as far as them. People look at Memphis and think, oh, it's Valanciunas and Morant, and this is easy. But I mean, if you look at what he's done with Dylan Brooks, if you look at what he's done with Kyle Anderson, if you look at what he was, what he's been able to do with Jaren Jackson in the short time that they've had. So Memphis is a dangerous team, bro. Like if they can get past Utah, that's not going to be an easy out for anybody. So we'll see how that game goes later on tonight, because it's a big one. Let's be honest, it's a big one for both teams, because it's the first one in Memphis, and if Utah can steal this one, they're in a really good position to, again, go back home and hopefully steal another one, but go back home and finish out the series if they could. So, right. And by the way, who do you like tonight? While we're at it, because there's 2 games later on today, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that you like the 76ers
yes.
against the Wizards. But who do you got with the Jazz and the Grizzlies tonight?
I'm actually going to take the Grizz, bro. Remember I said last week, don't sleep on Memphis.
Yeah.
I understand that Utah is good, and we mentioned that they won 52 games. I just think Memphis. See, the thing is about a lot of these number 1 seeds is that when they face these 8th seeds, sometimes I think certain teams take them for granted.
Yeah.
What I think, because Ja Morant went nuclear white hot in game 1, which they won.
Yeah.
And he had a good game. He was hot, but he wasn't nuclear white hot.
Right.
He was in game 2. And with the return of Donovan Mitchell, as you mentioned, really helped out Utah in the end. But I still wouldn't sleep on the Grizz, because now this is their first home playoff game, and I don't know how long.
Yeah.
With this crew of young kids, like you said, that's playing with house money and have nothing to lose. Utah, you can't come in lightly. I still think tonight I'm taking Memphis. I still think Utah wins the series, but I think Memphis is going to be like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. Let's go out here, not disappoint, and they'll play within the parameters. So I think that's what's going to happen. But this is going to end up being a fun series too, especially if Memphis wins this game tonight.
Yeah.
Because of the young blood that's down there in Memphis.
You just took it right out of my mouth. I was about to say I kind of hope they win tonight, because I think the series is going to look amazing if they do win tonight, because it makes game 4 almost must win for Utah, and that's going to be a really big one. And again, going back to Utah, if Memphis can take care of business, they could wrap up the series in Utah in front of the home fans of the number 1 seed. So that was a lot of basketball, man. I kind of want to transition, because we're about more than a quarter away through the season in the MLB season right now, and things are heating up. And thankfully for me, I missed 2 out of the 3 games last week between my White Sox and your Yankees, so I didn't have a chance to see the heartbreak that was a lot of those games. But I did rewatch. I did rewatch Game 1 and Game 3, because Game 2 was a laugher. But Game 1 and 3 were pretty close. That to me, and I texted you right after that, after Game 1, that felt like a playoff series between both of these teams, with the way that they were playing and just kind of the overall edge and the quality of baseball. Honestly, was really high in that series. I just think obviously the White Sox, really historically the White Sox don't do too well in New York. I think I think the last time they won a series in New York was I think 2019, but we sucked in 2018. Previous to that was a long time. So I know the Yankees are kind of slowly coming back into form. I know Aaron Hicks is out for the season now and have some other injuries that are kind of piling up here. But what's the status on the Yankees?
Right now, the Yankees have kind of gotten back to their we can't hit days. And it happened last night, and it's happening right now. Okay, so here's the problem, and I guess what I can say could be what's going on in baseball just in general, but did they screw with the baseballs again?
Yeah, I don't know, man. And
Like dead,
it's
more dead in baseballs or
it's
whatever.
making me. It is the baseball isn't as lively. I would say if they did anything to the baseball, it looks like right now the baseballs are heavier, to be quite
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
And I see what you're saying because pitchers seem to have a little bit more control and batters seem to have a little bit less control right now.
Exactly. And that's why everyone's like, oh, are all these no hitters bad for the game? Kind of, but not necessarily. Only because, see, okay, I give you a prime example. Look at the Minnesota Twins. The
Yeah,
Minnesota Twins 2 years ago in 2019
the most. Yeah,
led the league in home runs
yeah,
hit by a team.
and set an MLB record for the first 2 months. I think first 2 months they hit the most in the league history.
Right. And that's when the balls were supposedly juiced around that time.
Sure.
Now that they've dead them, the Twins are what? The worst team in the American League Central?
Yeah, and they finally
Exactly.
they finally just escaped from last place. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a great point. It's very obvious if you look around the league right now that pitching has become let's say a priority of the league, and especially, I mean, also the one thing that I need to mention. I think the umpiring has been a lot worse this year too, and I think the strike zone has just been all over the place.
Oh my God, bro! Let's get into this. Game 1, Yankees White Sox.
Yeah.
The guy calls a pitch on the outside corner. Oh my God, who was it? Because somebody argued heavy. Oh my God, I can't think of who it was, but there was one where a guy threw the same exact pitch.
And one was a ball.
It was one of your guys. One of your guys, the ball's on the inside. Okay, so because the White Sox didn't get that call when Gleyber Torres was up there, I think is what led to the home run.
Yeah.
So then, because the White Sox didn't get that pitch later on, and was called strike 3. So then when the same pitch happened again to the Yankees and they called it a ball, Tony La Russa is over there.
Yeah.
Same exact pitch
Yeah.
in the same exact spot that you just called the ball.
Yeah.
It's now all of a sudden a strike.
Yeah. It's
Dude, give me a
it's getting out of
break,
hand.
bro.
It's getting out of hand.
And the problem is everyone's like, well, people don't understand how hard umpiring is. That's why you get trained to be one.
And that's why you try and be better, right? It's like this idea that umpires should get this leash because it's so hard. Well, then either make it easier for them or make them better, because this isn't the way to do it right now. I mean, you can say, didn't the Yankees just use the Yankees yesterday had a called or a third strike that wasn't called, and what, the next pitch Detroit hits a home run and wins the game, right?
Exactly. But you can't tell Yankees fans that, because I don't know why they took Aroldis Chapman out and didn't just leave him in the 10th, because he's not a 2-inning pitcher, moron.
Right.
That's why you don't keep Aroldis Chapman in for more than an inning. What in previous history do you think it is a smart idea to keep Aroldis Chapman in for more than 1 inning?
A guy who's notorious for his soft tissue injuries, by the way, too. So, like, to leave him in for a second inning and risk your best bullpen arm in game 40 something of the season makes absolutely no sense.
Makes no sense. But you can't tell certain Yankee fans that. They just always want to be the first hot take guy to say something stupid. Nonetheless, though, that's my point.
Yeah.
While Angel Hernandez and CB Buckner and Las Diaz and some of these other guys, like, here's the problem I have. Okay, for a sport that's really trying to become revolutionized, guys are still using the phrase pitchers umpires and batters umpires.
Yeah.
That was cool in the 90s and 2000s when we were just playing baseball and baseball didn't equal to math.
Right.
Now that baseball has equal to math and we're trying to revolutionize the game, and you're talking about and everyone's like and everyone's like, oh, we're going to use robot umpires. It's not necessarily a robot umpire. It is a universal strike zone with a buzzer
Exactly.
in your hand, and when it crosses through, the buzzer will buzz, which will make you call the flipping strike.
Yeah.
That's the point. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, because you just mentioned we just royally just got screwed from it last night.
Yeah.
So my point and my problem is that baseball needs to now, unfortunately, take the umpiring out of the hands because it's not working, and revolutionize using the strike zone as of before the season started. You know, how much longer do we have to keep waiting for AAA to fix the bugs and figure it out before we use it? Your Major League freaking Baseball.
Yeah, and every broadcast, Nick, every broadcast has the K zone, right? The K zone. So the K zone is available to the broadcast team. And I'm telling you, when you watch the White Sox, they show you it caught this much of the strike zone, or it caught that much of outside the zone. And if it's so easy for us to track that, we should have had that years ago. And let's be honest about, you know, what this really is, Nick, is that, you know, baseball is a good old boys club. You know, same reason why Tony La Russa is managing the White Sox and not, you know, somebody that's more qualified and better than. Yeah, not a Carlos Beltran, or even a guy. You know, what's the Houston guy's name? The cheater in Houston, who went to Detroit. Forgot his name.
AJ Hinch.
AJ Hinch, more qualified and ready to go than Tony La Russa is, but baseball is a good old boys club, so I'm the owner, and my buddy is gonna be the manager of our team, and, you know, and by the way, we're gonna name, you know, the White Sox just continue to keep tripping over themselves with this Tony La Russa hire. La Russa's in the news every single fucking week. He's either getting sued by somebody. He had one of his companies go under, and all the employees of the company were saying his family was basically treating them like shit. La Russa's asked to change one of the corners of the ballpark named after the La Russas, and then the family who it was named after previously was in the White Sox organization for 60 years. And instead of honoring a family that's been there for 60 years, the good old boys club said, let's name it after La Russa because, you know, he's my drinking buddy, Jerry Reinsdorf. So this is just silly at this point. You know, Joe West just had his record game. I think it was like 5,500. He's umpired the most games of anybody in the league. And to me, I said it during the game, that's not an accomplishment. That's not an accomplishment. That means he's been in too long. That means that Joe West is not by any stretch of the imagination a great umpire. Let's be honest about this. Joe West has just been around for a long fucking time, and in that game, unfortunately for him, in that game, he showed why he's not the best umpire in the world. He missed multiple calls, and that's the thing about missing calls in baseball, Nick. It's different in basketball. You know what? You call a foul that wasn't a foul. That sucks. We just gave them 2 points, but we're going to go back on the other side of the ball, and we're going to have a chance to get it back. Or, you know, football, man, you missed a penalty. That sucks. You know what? But I could still play defense here. I could still make something happen here. But in baseball, every single pitch is so essential and so important to get right that if you get even one of them wrong in the at-bat, it could change the whole fucking game. And it's just so deflating to continuously see umpires missing. And I don't know if this is around when you started watching baseball, but it used to be that the AL was the high strike league, that they only called high strikes in the AL. But if you go to the NL, the strike zone kind of dipped lower and you couldn't get a called strike up high. And that's just completely ludicrous. It's like it should be one universal strike zone that we know is tried and true and tested, and all we have to do is just call balls and strikes, bro. And if you want the umpire out there to call out on the base pass, to be the guy, you know, the scapegoat, whatever, I agree with you. It's way overdue. The fact of the matter is they could have made this happen this year. They used COVID as an excuse as to why they didn't implement it. They used COVID as an excuse, or also last year saying that, you know, minor league baseball didn't have a chance to do anything last year. It's time, dude. It's time to make something happen because it's just ruining the game. And also, Nick, what really bothers me is all these people talking about raising the mound, changing the fundamental rules of the game that have been around for literally 100+ years. And they would rather change the fundamental rules of the game than to just make one simple change to the fact that we need to upgrade the way that we call balls and strikes. It's very simple. And again, we're going to keep having incidences like yesterday that happened to the Yankees where teams are losing games because of bad calls. And at the end of the day, those pile up.
They really do. And you know what the sad thing is? Baseball's done a couple of things, which is why I think Rob Manfred needs to go. First off, they've made umpires so soft that you can't argue anything.
Right, and they get they toss everybody, yeah.
Strike, right. You can't argue balls and strikes. When you call a pitch that's a clear strike and it's not a ball, I have a right to argue that.
Yeah.
Basically, what you're saying is whether if the umpire's right or wrong, you just have to go with the call. No, that's crap. Because if this umpire called something, okay, or classic case, if you just called that a strike 3 batters ago on the other team and now I'm up, or if you called that a ball 3 batters ago and now I'm up and that's a strike, guess what? I have a right to argue that.
Yep.
That's the same flipping pitch that you just gave him a ball on. You just called me a strike on.
Yeah.
But I can't, according to baseball, because umpires have feelings, and we don't want to hurt their feelings because they might make wrong decisions because they're human. Okay, I still have a right to argue that if what the call you got was wrong.
Just imagine if we could do that at our jobs. Like, I just keep fucking up my job, and then they're like, dude, get your shit together. I'm like, I'm only human. Like, I'm trying my best here. And they're like, it's just silly to think. And also, what really kills me, Nick, is that there's no accountability. Like, the fact of the matter is, a guy like Angel Hernandez can get 100 calls wrong, and then there's no accountability, no media, no nothing. There's like, they say now that the new thing as well, umpires now will have a report that is given to them after every game to show them where the balls were called and da-da-da and da-da-da. And really, they need to make that public. If you guys want to really earn the respect of people, make that public and show those stats. I would like to see here's your umpire for the day, amount of, correct balls called percentage, correct strikes called percentage, missed calls percentage. I'd like to see some stats on our umpires, because until that happens, you're going to keep giving the benefit of the doubt to people who don't deserve it.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And look at it like this, dude. I think what's wrong with baseball, especially with Ron Manfred, because he's an idiot, is the fact of, I feel like baseball doesn't know, like, either you're going to modernize the game or you need to leave the game alone.
Right.
You mentioned about a universal strike zone, which then turns around and makes me think that baseball just needs to do a universal DH.
Yeah, no,
you get
definitely.
What I'm saying?
Yeah, it's overdue.
So either we're going to modernize the game or we leave the game alone. But you can't do both.
Yeah. And all the people who say, it's fun to watch pitchers hit, you're going to miss out on the fun. First of all, there's literally maybe 1 or 2 plays a week that are quote-unquote fun when you're watching pitchers hit. And usually it has to do with them fucking up or them doing something that they shouldn't do. So the fact of the matter is, if your best argument for pitchers hitting is it's fun to see pitchers hit sometimes. Like when the White Sox were in Cincinnati and Dylan Cease, he got 3 hits, and the announcers were saying, well, this is one of the awesome reasons why that you like to, have pitchers hit. No. I really don't care if Dylan Cease can hit the ball. His job is to pitch the ball, and his job is to be a great pitcher. And if you're telling me, well, he got 3 hits in that game, good for him. This isn't Little League. I don't care that we are going to, pad the stats of a pitcher by giving him a hit. No. We should just make the universal DH a thing. It should have been a thing this year. I also think that the extra runner in the 10th inning, on second base was a huge mistake. I just think right now baseball is at a crossroads because we're seeing parity, right? I think that's one thing to keep in mind is that everybody likes parity, right? Everybody likes to see lots of teams in the thick of things. I mean, we were mentioning how, earlier in the season, Boston's going to suck. Toronto's going to be a middler. Baltimore's going to be okay. And then all of a sudden, Boston's overperforming. We talked about how the Cubs suck. the Cubs are now in first place. Oakland was going to go back to being a middling team, and Oakland now all of a sudden is back up top. The Angels have fallen off. Minnesota has fallen off. There's just so many examples of, like, the fact of the matter is right now it's tougher and tougher and tougher to win games in this league now. And that is completely separate from how the umpires are doing. So we need to figure that out before we start to talk about moving the mound back, raising the mound, changing the ball. I heard rumors about they were going to say bat dimensions. We're going to take a look at bat dimensions, and maybe what we can do is make it so that there's more contact. Dude, this is crazy. Just get back to, can we confidently call balls and strikes? And then once we can do that, we can expand the game as much as you want. But let's get balls and strikes down first.
Yeah. And it goes back, and think about it, bro, it goes back to where I said the problem with baseball is that they're trying to bring in the new customers bad that they're alienating the old customers.
Right.
We don't understand why the young kids don't watch baseball anymore. So the genius idea that I have is let's do this and do that, and we're going to
reinvent the wheel.
You have to face the batters at least 3 times.
Right. Yeah.
Or what's another stupid ass rule that they put in?
The mound visit limit, as if mound visits were the reason why baseball games last 3 or 4 hours.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly. But what you did was, by telling a manager that his pitcher now has to face three batters, it more or less takes away from the inside chess game that is in baseball. But that right there is why fans of the National League piss me off, because they always are like, well, if you make everything a universal DH, then the managers don't manage in the National League. They don't do it in the American League like doing it in the National League. National League managers are so much smarter. Double switch. Yeah, because I bought $150 ticket in the front row to go watch the Yankees, so I could see Aaron Boone. Like, here comes Aaron Boone. Watch him make this double switch. Watch him make it.
Yeah, double switch. Like,
Aaron Boone, what a switch, baby. Okay, go.
Yeah, let's just go. Let's beat traffic. We already saw Aaron Boone did the double switch.
Bro, National League fans are so delusional.
And can I also dismantle this whole National League managers are better? Literally, it's maybe 1 to 2 extra decisions a game about pinch hitters. That's literally the difference between an NL and an AL manager. It's just the fact of, like, do I double switch here? No. Do I leave my pitcher in here? No. That's literally what the strategy is. So to say that NL managers are so much better than AL managers and the strategy, you guys just wouldn't understand. No, you know what we understand? Pitching and hitting. That's what we understand. Like, we don't need to understand double switches and bunting. Like, this whole idea of, like, well, then the bunt is going to be lost and nobody will ever bunt again. That, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, have you ever seen a pitcher bunt? It's ugly. They suck at it. They're not good at it. So the fact of the matter is, even if you do want to see more bunting, that's even more of a reason to see a professional hitter in a DH slot rather than a professional pitcher.
Right. Like, it's crazy because you see Bartolo Colon, hits one lucky ass home run against
yeah.
Like, see, this is why we need hitting. You don't get stories like that of Bartolo Colon. Nobody cares, bro.
Like I said, Dylan Cease got 3 hits in his first 3 at-bats. He got 3 hits in Cincinnati. And even after the game, he was like, yeah, it was kind of cool. Like, even Dylan Cease, the guy who got the hits, his first 3 ever hits in a major ballpark in Cincinnati, was kind of like, meh, after the game. So you're going to literally leave this to have 1 or 2 of those stories happen every, 2 weeks maybe? It just doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, I'm impressed by, first of all, what I'm impressed with baseball with is that they've rebounded pretty well from the pandemic. I think they've done a good job of integrating fans back into the stadium. I think they've set a good standard for football, hopefully, because I think you and I are both on the same page. I want to see 100% capacity in football this year. I think I think it's possible. I think we can do it. If baseball can do it in Texas with Arlington, if we can do 60% in Chicago, and 70%,
we can do 15,000 in New York. If we can pretty much pack the stands on July 16th at the Toyota Center when SmackDown comes to Houston.
Sure. Yeah. No. There's absolutely no reason why we can't have 100%, if not, at the very worst, 90% capacity in NFL football. So, again, I'll give them credit for what – but again, who does that credit go to? Do we say good job, Rob Manfred? It's not like Rob Manfred really did anything in particular. These are the teams that were fighting for the opportunity to have these games be open and working, again, with local jurisdiction and local cities that can, give them the rules to play with. So I don't give Rob Manfred credit for that, and I agree with you. I think it's been a tough couple of years for Rob Manfred, and I think more and more you're starting to see the diehard baseball fans become very frustrated with the fact that right now the bottom 5 teams in this league don't deserve to be in this league. Let's just put it that way. Like when I see that Javier Baez playing, everyone's like jumping up and down like, did you see Javier Baez? El Mago. He made magic happen. And then you watch the play and the Pittsburgh first baseman just doesn't step on first base. Like literally the dude doesn't step on first base and then Javier Baez runs back towards the plate. A bonehead play that even I never played 1 second of professional baseball. No, all I have to do is step on first base and I don't have to worry about this guy, where this guy is running. And instead, it's like all over MLB, all over ESPN. Oh my God, what an amazing play by Javier Baez. And really, in reality, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates who don't deserve to be in the fucking league. That's what this comes down to because they don't want to put out a major league product. And quite frankly, they're not trying to put out a major league product. So what are we going to do about this as a league, as a team? We're starting to hear stuff about Oakland possibly moving, possible expansion teams, possible, adding to the league, adding to the rosters, adding to the draft. And it's like, dude, you guys are overskipping some of the biggest things, some of the biggest issues in the game right now, which has to do with our current rosters. And just trying to think about what's going to make me money, what's going to make the league money, what's going to make Rob Manfred richer, what's going to make some of these owners richer. And it's really, really creating a huge issue with fans like us.
I think the thing is that Rob Manfred may not be the guy to overlook these issues per se, because like these are like some pretty big issues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And dude, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of Rob Manfred.
Yeah.
I haven't been a fan of his for a long time. I was never a fan of his when, he called the World Series title a hunk of metal after the whole debacle with the Houston Astros thing.
Yeah.
And like, no one really, like, people talk smack about him, but when it was a time to maybe call for his head, nobody really went for it. Yeah. And this is the commissioner we have, dude. And so, but, another thing I did want to bring up is, especially with the fans being in the stands, if no one comes down with COVID-19 in the next, let's give it, so game 2 of Knicks Hawks was on. What's today? Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
So Wednesday.
Okay.
If by Monday, no one that attended those games have come down with the COVID-19 virus, bro, New York would have opened up Pandora's box. Because remember, when COVID-19 hit, the state it got first was Washington State.
Yep.
But the state that got hit it with about as worse as it could got hit was New York, obviously, because of the melting pot that is New York City.
Right.
But if you're going to tell me that the first state, maybe on the north part of America is New York, where it got hit the worst. Because I'm not counting Arlington. Like, I can, but I'm not, because I'm not sure how many people were really flying to Texas to go really watch the World Series like that.
Yeah, that's huge.
One thing.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna tell me the most valuable franchise in basketball in a state where COVID hit the worst just had 19,000 people in their stadium, and not a single one of them, including staff and players, have COVID-19, opens up Pandora's box for the rest of the sports league. That means now all of a sudden Chicago's going to be like, oh, because New York and Chicago always go head to head. So if somewhere between Lightfoot and the other one, Barney Rubble,
Pritzker, yeah,
between those two,
Mayor Quimby,
yeah, Mayor Quimby, yeah. One of them's going to be like, hold on a second. Ain't no way us Illinoisans gonna let those New Yorkers get all the credit. How dare, like, Lightfoot's like, I'm not gonna let that Cuomo make me look like a dumbass
nipple
bitch.
rings.
You know what? Forget it. JB, I'm opening up Chicago. Next thing you know, Soldier Field, 100%. UC, 100%.
Well, apparently, Nick, it took them to twist Lori Lightfoot's arm about 60%. That 60% was a huge struggle to get. And to me, that's ridiculous, because when you start to look at some of the numbers around outdoor events, and also from what I hear, and I heard this about the Knicks game too in specific, it is a tight fucking ship. Like, if you are out in the concourse, you have a mask on. If you are socially distanced, everything is basically prepared for the absolute worst. And even so, when you look in the crowd and you see people that are spaced out with no masks on, and you have no cases come from that, I agree with you. I think it's getting to the point. And also, Nick, zero players and coaches and staff have tested positive once since in the last couple months. So to me, we're getting to the point now where, okay, the due diligence has been done. We know more about, and also that's another thing I want to give a disclaimer to. A lot of people say, well, we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that. We didn't know what this thing was, right? Like, when we were dealing with this for the first 6, 7, 8 months, we didn't know what the hell it was, and now we have more research. Now we have vaccines. Now we have a lot of things that can help us out. And in terms of like looking at Arlington, I think that's a very good way for us as a country to look at Arlington, Texas, and what they've done with the Rangers, and basically having 100% capacity, people sitting shoulder to shoulder with each other outside, and have not had major cases come out of that. I think that's a huge kind of stepping stone for us as a country to say, okay, it's not where we want it to be. We would like for people to still have the freedom to be as safe as possible. If you aren't vaccinated right now, I would suggest you still wear a mask. If you are vaccinated and you're still going out into bigger crowds, you should still wear a mask. These are all things we're still doing. I mean, New York, if you looked at the way that the arena was set up, it looked like it didn't look like there was 19,000 fans in there, because they were spaced out so well too. Right. So it's time, man. It's time for us as a country. I'm not saying we're not talking about Walmart. We're not talking about corporations. We're talking about sports outdoors in specific, right? I know if you want to make your argument about basketball and hockey, go right ahead. But my point was, baseball has set a huge precedent here and shown that we can get back to normal, we can get back to closer to normal, and not have to put anybody at risk. And I think that's important to do, because, again, I'm going to echo this. I don't think there should be any reason why the NFL would have under 80% capacity this year. No reason at all.
And especially now that you're at least, okay, so the Super Bowl ended in February. The vaccine started coming out around that same time, if not a little bit sooner than that. So, and my family and I, we just got our first dose on earlier in the week, Tuesday, I think it was.
How'd you feel?
So, you know what, dude? I mean, my body as a whole that's not gym related, I'm fine.
Got it. Did
But,
you have the
man, my
sore arm?
was
Yeah, I was gonna say the sore arm I
God.
heard was, but yeah. So I had my second one just a couple weeks ago, and I was really really sick for the second one, but it was crazy. Like literally, and I would say I was sick for 10 hours, and then after that 10 hours, it's as if nothing ever happened. So
And which one did you get?
I got the 2-dose one, which I believe is the Moderna one, right? I'm not
Okay, because that's what I have. I got the Moderna because
Yeah.
I signed up for the Pfizer, but they said they're only really giving the Pfizer to the kids, so I had to take the
Yeah,
Moderna.
yeah.
I was like, whatever, dude.
At this point, dude, honestly, I even told them you can microchip me if you want. You can fucking put in little, devil babies inside of me. I just want to get back to fucking normal, dude. I want to be able to, like, at this point, dude, you're already tracking my phone. Let's just get this over with.
Now, can we talk about that? Because someone came on my Facebook about that the other day. Yeah. They're like, man, you're Mr. Conspiracy Theorist. Why would you go get a shot? Because the Yankees and SmackDown both come to Houston in July, and I'll be damned if they turn me away to say, well, sir, are you vaccinated? Yeah. No, then we really can't let you in. Piss off. Yeah. Stick whatever you have to. I'm with you. She was like, do they have the chip in you now? And I was like, yeah, I feel it swimming in my veins.
Right, yeah. You can see my eye twinkle red a little bit. I'm turning into the fucking Terminator here. So exactly. Yeah, it's silly, and it's also, you know what, dude? At this point, I think they said over half the country is vaccinated, and I think they're expecting another like 20-something% by end of September. Dude, we haven't had a zombie apocalypse yet. We haven't had fucking quasi humans roaming the street because of these shots. I think it's okay to have a little bit of humility and say, I'm just a person. I don't know what the fuck medicine's going on. I was humbled by a lot of my friends and family when I came to them and said, I'm skeptical about the shot. I'm skeptical about this. And dude, you got to be humbled sometimes. You got to listen to people who know what the fuck they're talking about and understand that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So you know what, dude? If you want to have skepticism, that's your right as a human, as an American. Go right ahead. But if you're going to start to bring this sort of conversation to, oh, you're a sheep because you want to follow medicine, or oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, so somehow now you've slipped into the conspiracy theory. It's a very simple thing. All the people who talk about it like that simply don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and that's all I really care about at this point. It's like all these people who come out and are against vaccinations and then they go and die. Like some of these police, I saw a police officer the other day who's like, I don't need to get vaccinated. Da, da, da. He has all this stuff, propaganda on his Facebook, and a few days later he dies from COVID. This is not what we thought it was, guys. And on top of that, you guys aren't as smart as you think you are. I'm not as smart as I think I am. Nobody is, okay? So when you have doctors, when you have medical, professionals, when you have scientists telling you to listen to them because they spent 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in some cases dedicating their life to medicine, I think it's important we listen to them.
Exactly. And like you said, dude, sometimes, I was the same way as you were. Like, I was like, I don't know if I really want to get it. And I'm like, I'm not scared of needles or anything. It's just like when I went to go see a doctor and, I usually don't get sick. Yeah. Like I'm good at knowing that when something is about to come, I know how to nip it in the bud.
Right. Yeah.
I know how to get adequate sleep. Like I try to the most heightened extent. I get adequate sleep. I have them days sometimes where I'm up too late playing video games, wake up early, some kid shit.
Yeah, that's me.
I go through it, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing, like when I was back in Illinois and I went to go look at my diabetes, my doctor was very adamant about me getting the flu shot. And I was trying, like, I wasn't against her giving me the flu shot. I was just like, I don't really need it because I don't get sick.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I just went ahead and went with it. Like, whatever, just give me the shot. It's not going to do anything. My immune system's just fine. It's just too much sugar in my blood. That's all that's going on. I just need some way to get this sugar out of my blood. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's how I felt with the COVID shot.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, had the WWE not said they weren't going out, I may still not have gotten it.
Yeah,
but
no, totally.
Knowing that they were here, I looked at the commercial and I was like, I gotta go.
You gotta go.
And then not 30 minutes later, the missus is like, hey, I think we should just go ahead and just get vaccinated. I was like, great idea.
Great idea.
Get out of my head.
Yeah, let's get
figure out the appointments
let's
now.
make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Nick, you know, it's important, and I really do genuinely believe this. It's important to understand that you're wrong sometimes as a person, right? It's important to like look in the mirror and go, like, you know, this just maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, I was saying, I'm young, I'm healthy, you know, I don't need a vaccine, you know, vaccines are for people who are at risk. And then you read a little bit more and you educate yourself a little bit more and you realize, well, it really has nothing to do with you being young or healthy. This is about a group effort to get rid of this virus being a threat to us, and the only way we can do that is if we kind of come together and listen to the medical community, and the medical community has made it very clear that if you're able to, you should get vaccinated, and it's going to make your life safer. It's going to make it so that if you do get COVID, first of all, it's going to lessen the chances you get COVID. Second of all, it's going to make it less likely you give it to somebody. And third of all, if you do get it, it's going to make it a lot less likely you have severe symptoms. So at the end of the day, you're really covering all bases. And no matter how young or healthy, I mean, I heard Joe Rogan, the meathead, come on his podcast and say, I'm not going to get a vaccine. And then he came back 2 weeks later and, you know, credit to him. He said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. And the fact of the matter is, dude, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to have an opinion and to be strong and say that you think something and then find out different facts and go, I was wrong. And that's kind of what life is about, right?
Hey, bro. Joe Rogan came back off that line for 2 reasons. A, because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And B, because Dana White was like, I bet you if you want to keep calling these matchups, I bet your ass be getting on that vaccine.
Yeah.
Please.
Well,
Joe Rogan just out of his head come out and say, being the dumbass he is, you know what? I did some research and I think I was wrong.
And that's the thing about podcasts too, Nick, is like, you know, I'm sure if you and I watch some of our shows or the show after COVID that we had here, where you and I were like, what the fuck? This is just Ebola. This is like, da-da-da. Because, dude, this is what we are as humans, right? We are creatures of habit, and we see something and we relate it to something else that happened, and we go, this happened there, so it won't happen here. And in reality, we were wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. And as much as I don't particularly, I think Joe Rogan's podcast is pretty good in a lot of cases, but I agree. Like, just sometimes when you talk out the side of your mouth, you need to be checked sometimes and be like, hey, dude, like, right? So it's like, to put that in perspective, you're 100% correct. It's like, we are just the most spoiled, privileged pricks in all the world.
In the entire freelance world. Like, they told us to stay home, and well, I wasn't here when that happened in Texas, but I can only imagine these yeehaws out here. I'll be damned if the CDC tell me that I have to stay home because I live in America where I breathe my own air and create my own freedoms. Why? Because America. I'm sure that's what happened, but you don't really hear that too much now. I mean, Jim Abbott's pretty much, put the pedal to the metal on a lot of stuff out here, per se, as governor. But nonetheless, though, dude, in the beginning, dude, I was stupid about it.
Yeah, and we both were. And let's be honest, a lot of people were, Nick. A lot of smart people were stupid about this to start.
Right. So, yeah, I could put my pride, dude, to the side any day of the week. If I know getting this vaccination is going to lead to more important things, fine, whatever. I'll take the needle, put it in my arm. Took not even 3 minutes if you're lucky.
Yeah,
how you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Oh, that's real nice. Oh, rub my arm. Do you want the left arm or the right arm? Well, you're on the left side, so might as well put it in the left arm. Okay, cool. And then they say not to look at the shot because you tense your arm up.
Sure.
So I kept looking away. Fine, she stuck me. Bam. She's like, would you like me to put on a Band-Aid? It might hurt your arm because, you got hair. I don't care. Just put on a Band-Aid. Put on a Band-Aid. Bam. In and out. We're done. And I never got sick.
Yeah.
Right, my arm just hurts.
And I think at the end of the day, Nick, it's just really, not to take this too far into a tangent, but it's just like, again, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to have a different opinion than you did previously. These are all things we have to get accustomed to as people, especially in this type of time where this isn't going to be the last curveball that's thrown at us, Nick. Like, that's another thing that really worries me is like, just imagine when the real curveball gets thrown at us here as a world, as a country, as as a species here. We're gonna have to do better than we did here over the last year. But and I do want to transition. I want to talk a little bit about the European. It's basically the biggest soccer game in the world happened earlier today. Pretty much every single soccer fan in the world watches, and America just really hasn't caught up to the hype of it, which is a Champions League final. It happened in Porto, which is in Portugal. Earlier today, it was Manchester City versus Chelsea. And Chelsea took it 1-0. It was honestly more disappointing to watch Manchester City than it was impressive to watch Chelsea. Chelsea spent over $500 million on players over the last year or two. So I was expecting them to come in and put up a fight, but Manchester City's like got the team to do it, and they weren't able to do it. And the reason why I bring them up to transition is because there was nobody in the stands in Portugal, and a lot of the reason why they couldn't have fans in Portugal was because, again, people reacted really arrogantly when COVID came, and people were saying, I don't care about COVID, and this is just another conspiracy, and this is just a way for us to, stay home, and da-da-da-da. And what ended up happening is, the European Council couldn't come to terms on a stadium that was going to be able to host fans. So now the biggest soccer spectacle in all of the world that happens on this day happened in an empty stadium because of that type of stuff. And that's the real thing that really worries me, is like, we're not far away from that here for the Super Bowl next year, or if God knows what. I mean, people have to understand what's happening in India, and what's been happening in India over the last couple weeks, or a couple months rather, is a new variant of the COVID-19 strain. Okay, so this is for all intents and purposes, different virus. So that's scary. That's a very scary thing to think about, that maybe science isn't on top of this as well as we think. So we still have to be vigilant as people, and we still have to, take responsibility, be better. Like you said, just because the CDC doesn't say you have to be 6 feet or over 6 feet from each other, doesn't mean you can be breathing on someone's neck anymore. I think everybody's sense of space has changed through this pandemic, and I get uncomfortable now when somebody's over my shoulder at Costco, and I had to literally tell a lady, can you stop approaching me, please? Because every time I step up to try and create space between her and I, she steps up in closer to me. And it's like, we've got this crazy group of boomers who's like, you're never gonna kill me. I went through the World War II, and it's like, I really don't care. I literally
went through polio.
polio, and
the swine flu.
And good for you, lady, and I'm happy you made it. But this could be your last fucking day, lady. So be careful, okay? Let's just make that very clear right now. Yeah. So yeah, in the hopes of getting it back to a sports thing again, it just, I was very disappointed to watch the game earlier. It was kind of a, Manchester City didn't show up to the game, so the game wasn't great, but it was a little bit disappointing to see completely empty stadiums, and it was a shame that, the biggest spectacle in sports for about, I would say, 80% of the world had no fans in the stadium. So very sad.
Bro, let me ask you this. I doubt this is gonna happen, but let's say, okay, if I was the EuroLeague, and Europeans may not like what I'm finna say next, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If I have to play another match like that in an empty stadium, hello, is this Jerry Jones?
Jerry Jones, right? Yeah, dude. Hey.
Hello. Yes. We was wondering if we can have the greatest soccer match to ever happen in AT&T Center.
Yeah.
We heard you guys are at 100%, and you can hold at least 125,000 people. First of all, ain't no way Jerry Jones gonna say no.
Oh, hell no. He's gonna be writing up the paperwork as he's on the phone.
Ain't no way that the state of Texas ain't gonna say no.
Yeah.
And third off, ain't no way that the city of Dallas ain't gonna say no.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
billions of dollars in revenue for the state of Texas to hold the Euros. And why? Because y'all don't want to get y'all act together? Fine. Then I'll just fly everybody. You know, they're nice enough to fly across seas for football games. So we'll take our football game over there where I know we get people and maybe actually make some money. And you guys can just watch it on TV when it's over there.
I will tell you, Nick, we're not far from that. I'm telling you, we're not far from that because Europe is increasingly becoming more and more vigilant to the COVID rules, just simply because they're having a hard time enforcing it, and some would say even more so than America. I mean, as much shit as we talk about America, I would like to take some pride in the fact that as a country we sort of came together the months after the COVID hit, and we saw the effects, and I think we all sort of looked at each other and went, we're wrong. We don't know as much as we think we do, and it's just time for us to kind of take a look at what we can do. And a lot of countries didn't do that, including the UK, including a lot of these European countries. I mean, Italy was notoriously France. Italy almost canceled Serie A. They almost didn't play football or soccer in Italy this year, just simply because of the pandemic and people not being able to make stuff happen. So I agree, and we're not far from that just in general. Because I think the main issue that they have with bringing it to the Americas, which would be, Mexico, North America, or even South America, is that, the travel from the Europe for the fans, it's a European competition, right? So it's a competition with only European teams in it, and they would like to keep it in Europe. But I really don't think we're far from a scenario where they say, you know what, if we could pack 120 money hand over fist and let's pin them against each other. Let's make them think that this is about the stadium or this is about the city, or, Oakland's trying to make it about the fact that, well, the city of Oakland does not want to help us right now. What responsibility does the city of Oakland have to keep the athletics going? Let me ask you that. What responsibility does Oakland have to the athletics, which is basically a company? What do they have to say, I'm going to go ahead and pay for your stadium because somehow it makes the city money, maybe 80-something times a year? I'm sorry. That is completely ludicrous. And I understand Oakland's thing is bigger than just the stadium, but in reality, we just continue to let these billionaires get away with doing whatever they want, and then we start to pick on the GM or the head coach or this or that. And in reality, what it comes down to is the owners are just in this to make their money, and they understand that this is a cash cow. But once the MLS starts to expand and you start to look at some of these athletes and you go, oh my God, we're losing revenue, this league, the NFL, is in some big trouble. And let's keep it 100 about what's keeping the NFL afloat. Sports betting. Fantasy football
pretty much,
and sports betting has basically kept NFL where it is. And if that ever goes away, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
All right, guys, let's do a quick reset because we veered off because I think in terms of like the COVID stuff, it's been a while since we've kind of talked about the effects that COVID has had, and just kind of taking a little bit of a toll here. So again, guys, thanks again for checking in. Just want to do a quick check-in before we move on to the next topic. Obviously, we are live here on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. If you guys are on Facebook and watching with us, feel free to check in. Ask questions during the chat, comments, whatever you guys want. If you're on YouTube right now, you're on the Pod River YouTube watching live. Thanks for joining us. If you are a audio listener, you can listen on all the audio platforms. So please continue to like, share, subscribe, and obviously I would really appreciate if you guys could leave us nice reviews, especially on the iTunes. We keep kind of jumping up in and out of the top 20 in iTunes in certain weeks. So just want to continue to ask you guys for the favor of helping us out. If you have an Apple iPhone, just go ahead and give us a nice review, say nice things about us, and continue to share out the show because we definitely want to keep this thing going for you guys. So Nick, what else? I
mean, just some quick recaps, dude. I mean, the NHL playoffs are going on.
Yeah.
The Islanders advanced. The Golden Knights just advanced.
Yeah.
I know the Bruins advanced. But the funny part about that Bruins advancing is now the questions are, what's going to happen with Alexander Ovechkin, dude?
Yeah. Yeah,
because he's a free agent now. So there's teams out there like, oh, we should get ourselves over and blah, 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 whatever, dude. And trust me, I hate the Boston Bruins with a passion, but I hate the New York Islanders with an even bigger passion. So I will let my disdain for Boston just go on the side just for a little bit, so that they can beat the Islanders, and I'm just gonna go right back to hating them as usual. So.
Yeah, and also I think the NHL playoffs too, this year more than ever has shown that like parity is very low in the league right now. Like the best teams have made it very clear they're the best teams, and it's very hard to see. Again, like looking at a franchise like myself. I mean, you guys, the Rangers aren't looking too bad. Like you guys next year have a lot of hope and can make some moves and have flexibility. But when you look at the Blackhawks, you think, what are we going to do contractually? Do we have the firepower to go out and compete with some of these teams, especially in what we saw in the Central was a tough division, but there was a lot of, let's be honest, that your division was tougher. There was plenty of competition in the league, but it just seems like the bottom half of the league is so much worse than the top half that even some of these playoff series you're looking at and you're going, man, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised. I know the Wild series with Vegas win 7 games, but I was a little bit surprised to see how in it Minnesota was. Like I was thinking Vegas has this almost dream team in some ways with what they've built, and it's crazy. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Kraken, what Seattle's expansion looks like next year, because the way that Vegas did it, it's only been 3.5, 4 years since the franchise has even been alive, and they're on their way to what could possibly be the second Stanley Cup final. So it's amazing to see some of these teams kind of come in, franchise, basically start all over again and have an opportunity. And the Islanders are part of that too. I mean, they've had to dissect their team apart in the last couple of years, and it's shown that they've gotten better as a result. So the Blackhawks are in a tough position.
Trotz helps out too.
True.
Barry Trotz, when he left Washington, really helps out. And I know they miss him because they've barely they've made it to the playoffs, but I don't think they've been out of the first round since he left. So, remember, this is the same team that picked up Zdeno Chara from the Boston Bruins, and they advanced and he didn't. Once again, sometimes that grass ain't always green on the other
exactly.
side.
Yeah, that's another example of the grass never being greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it, right? So yeah, that Islanders Bruins series is going to be a pretty nice one to watch. And if you guys, and the Maple Leafs, by the way, are in game 6 right now with the Canadians, and they have a chance to take or to end the series. That one just started, and then otherwise tomorrow you've got the Lightning and Hurricane, who both start their second round series. And that's another one that's going to be really interesting.
So how's that going to work? When the winner of the North, it don't matter who it is. Wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself because Toronto's playing Montreal, right?
Right. Yeah. Toronto's.
Isn't there another set of Canadian teams up there that's playing each other too?
So you got
who did Edmonton just get eliminated by?
So. Hold on 1 second. Edmonton. Yeah, you're right, because there should be another. It happened so why? Oh, it was the Jets. It was Winnipeg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Who leads the Toronto series right now?
Toronto's can put it away with a win tonight against the Canadians.
So that means the winner of so let's just hypothetically say Toronto wins tonight. They would then play Winnipeg, right?
Winnipeg, yep.
So then the winner of Toronto and Winnipeg would have to face the winner of Boston and New York. I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to work out. Are the Canadian governments going to stop being bitches for 5 seconds?
That's a good question.
Let these vaccinated American players and hockey players find their way over there so they can have a home game?
Or a neutral site, maybe?
Same game we've been doing with the Toronto Blue Jays and have them playing places that aren't even their home. Like,
which
they
is
don't
stupid,
even
by
feel
the
like
way. It's so stupid that Toronto has to do that, and it's silly. But I guess that's governmental oversight. But yeah, no, that's a good point, and I would be interesting to see that, because you would guess it would have to be a neutral site, right? Like, and that's a disadvantage for whoever the Canadian team is. So that's an interesting point to see, and you would think that they had this figured out. Like, they're like, okay, let's buy ourselves 3 or 4 months with the regular season being only in Canada, and maybe we can start to look at some travel. I think the main reason why Canada, honestly, didn't want games in Canada is they didn't want people traveling. And in reality, they could have had local fans go there, but the problem is, like, how are you going to do that? You're going to check their address to make sure that they're local. I know that, like, that's not abnormal for NHL teams to do, but it just seems a little bit silly that Canada couldn't come to some terms with what would happen if one of these teams advanced. So
by the way, bro, hey, can we stop trying to make hockey players seem like these macho tough men when they represent organizations that are about as soft as baby crap, bro? Are you kidding me that the Tampa Bay Lightning are at it again? That they made some kid with his dad with Florida Panthers jerseys take them off in the section they were sitting in at the game.
Soft as hell.
Are we still doing this, bro? Like, I thought this was America. I didn't know I had to be told who I am and am not rooting for. No, I will not take my jersey off. I will not flip it inside and out. And unless you show me somewhere where you tell me that's illegal, if you throw me out, I sue your bitch ass up and down this arena. So no, I will not take it off.
And it's just like the soft ass Nashville Predators who said, "Well, we are sick and tired of the Blackhawks fans taking up too much space in our arena, so now we're gonna start asking for your address when you buy the ticket." You guys are soft as hell, bro. Like, get more fans. Get more fans if that's what you want.
Right. Exactly. Because hockey players say, well, look, Brad Marchand played 2 shifts on a broken leg. Meanwhile, LeBron James has to go and get carried off because the man literally can't walk because he was cramped up. Because people act like they've never had a cramp before, right?
Right.
And that when you cramp up, you can just walk normal, just run on it. Everything will be okay, right? Right? Because we just hate LeBron that bad. Meanwhile, the same idiots stay quiet when situations like you just said, and this is how soft Nashville is. They didn't just stop with no. I take that back. That's not how just as soft Nashville is. That's how strong the Blackhawk fans are. Because Tampa Bay later on
did the same thing.
Telling Blackhawks fans, we're only selling to locals. You can only get tickets from here. So they got scared that the Blackhawk fan community were going to travel well and go wherever they need to, because they know that Chicago fans don't play, and they know that their fan base is 20 stronger than ours. Dude, anybody that roots for the Tampa Bay Lightning only became fans when they recently started making all these
100%.
Los Angeles Dodgers-like moves.
100%, dude. 100%.
Go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
100%. Dude, there's no team in the NHL that was more LA Dodgerish than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
Let's get Stamkos. Let's get Ryan Callahan. Let's get Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
Let's get whoever. Dude, they made so many deals, and they just recently won the Stanley Cup. Like the Los Angeles Dodgers, who made so many big money moves.
Finally.
And just won the title last year. Dude, miss me with that.
And Tampa, it took a couple of years of Tampa getting bumped out of the first and second round to even come close to that too. So
dude, the same team that got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets as the number 1 team in the NHL.
Yeah.
Not just the East. They were the President's Cup and gathered no extra points after they were awarded the President's Cup.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a pretty telling statistic right there. So, so the NHL it just kind of getting heated up here. I think we'll know the results of the Canadiens Maple Leafs if the Canadians take that one to Game 7, then you'll likely see their series start, I believe, the following Monday. But yeah, to be determined there. But yeah, the Bruins and Islanders will start, or will have Game 2 rather on Monday. So they're actually going to start their series later on tonight. So Game 1 later on tonight, Islanders and Bruins. And by the way, who would you say is a favorite so far?
In the NHL right now?
Yeah. Because I'm having a hard time. Honestly, I've kind of just started paying back attention after the Blackhawks got eliminated. And, I've got right now, I'm looking at the way that the Lightning, I think the winner of the Lightning Hurricane series is got a really huge advantage because they both play pretty similarly. So if they can get out of that series unscathed, I like obviously the Hurricane, the Lightning have the firepower, but I think the Hurricanes are kind of underrated. They're playing a lot better recently too.
I actually think whoever comes out of the Bruins Islanders series,
that's another one.
I think takes it. Because I think the Bruins and Islanders are very evenly matched.
Yeah.
If from the top down, it's just all about whose goalie play is going to be better.
Right.
If you're asking me, who do I trust more? I trust Boston's goalies more than I trust the Islanders goalies. So I mean, and don't get me wrong, Sorokin is good for the Islanders, but I don't know. I like Boston. They've been good for a long time.
And they've been there too.
And I mean, they've been there and done that. So
yeah.
I like them, and I think that series goes 7. But I really like Boston in that one.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one. So if you guys didn't know, that one just probably Puck's probably about to drop in the next 5-10 minutes for that Bruins Islanders game. But otherwise, the only other thing I wanted to talk about with you, because I wasn't on last week, and I just want to mention it before we wrap up here, because we've had a little bit of a marathon on my first week back. But the Julio Jones stuff, I kind of was in and out of the podcast last week, so I know you probably mentioned it, but wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that, because Julio, the whole situation with Shannon Sharpe was a little bit weird. Shannon calls him while he's on TV. We don't necessarily know if Julio knew he was on TV or not. And then he asked Julio about, what happened. And basically Julio said, I'm out of there. He confirmed he's not going to go to the Cowboys, and basically said that he's just waiting to get traded. And he actually requested a trade months ago, and Atlanta has kept it on the hush. The only reason why Atlanta, I imagine, has not traded him is because they would not gain anything right now trading him before June 1st, but obviously after June 1st there's a cap relief there. So what do you think about the whole saga, and I guess who do you see as a favorite for Julio right now?
I still kind of think that New England might be the favorites, but man, I don't know. In fairness, I almost wanted to say the Bears, but they don't really have the assets to.
Yeah, we don't have that, and money. That's another thing with Julio, dude. That contract is large, and you're going to be paying him for the next 3 years when he's going to be about 35.
Yep. So basically, what we would have to do is we would have to find the teams that are either from in the middle of the pack to Super Bowl contenders that would really need a wide receiver.
Right. And have the money for it.
Here's a crazy notion.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't the Baltimore Ravens on the phone?
Yeah. That's a really interesting one too. Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there may not be a guy in the NFL that could really use a true number one receiver, that's what made Randy Moss so great. Let's not sit here and act like Randy Moss was playing with these NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks in their prime.
Right.
Yeah. Because a lot of these quarterbacks after Randy Moss were nothing. Yeah. Jeff George, nothing. Randall Cunningham, nothing. Dante Culpepper, the recipients of the recipients.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the only QB that was worth a damn after Randy Moss left, obviously, was Tom Brady.
Sure, yeah.
That's it. And Randy Moss is Marquez Tuiasosopo.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah,
that's who Randy Moss was catching passes from in his entire NFL career.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we know that what's his name? Lamar Jackson struggles to throw the ball from time to time basis.
Yeah.
He had him a wide receiver where he could just chuck the ball up and think that this guy might go out and get it. Baltimore might be that place. And then imagine if Baltimore got Julio Jones. Are you kidding me? With that running attack to be scary, that would almost be like the Georgia Tech Wishbone team that had Calvin Johnson on it. Yeah. It's like, yeah, we're great running the ball, but can I introduce you to this little 6'5" missile-bound package wide receiver that we got, or 6'3", whose name is Calvin Johnson? Watch this. And we saw what he did in Detroit. So, you know what? I am going to step out here and say that if Julio Jones is to get traded, which he will be, the Baltimore Ravens should be on the phone.
Yeah, and just for clarity, I looked up cap space, and it looks like Baltimore has around $11 million right now, but they could make some money by eliminating some dead cap space. But I want to give you an idea of who the top 8, or let's do top 10. So Jacksonville has the most cap space left as of anyone. It's hard to imagine Jacksonville trading assets for Julio Jones at this point. So I'm going to rule them out. Denver has interesting one, $35 million in space. They would be able to make that happen and have the assets to trade as well. The Jets have just over $30 million. They could make that, but I highly doubt that would happen. Cincinnati, same thing, $25 million, and would likely not be able to make that happen. But Cleveland has $20 million in space. That would be a tough one, though, because you almost would need to trade Odell back if you were to trade for Julio. So that's why a lot of people, I think, are poo-pooing that trade right now. Obviously, New England's right there. They have $20 million. New England's right there. They've always been one of the favorites for that one.
Hey, bro, but let me ask you this, though. If you're Cleveland... No. If you're Atlanta... Do you really say no to that trade, though?
With Odell, you're talking about?
Like, okay, yeah. Because think about it like this. Yes, clearly Julio is a much better wide receiver than Odell.
Yeah, but he's older.
But think about it. Odell can play, though.
True.
He runs routes great. He's got great hands. We know that. It's just he's always in his own head.
Yeah.
So knowing that Baker and Odell really don't mix. Yeah, if you're Cleveland, you want to make that deal. But if you're Atlanta, are you really going to find something better than maybe Odell Beckham and then just try to roll the dice and hopefully you can eventually it'll come back? Not if he just went on the phone on national TV. And I believe he knew he was on the show because Shannon Sharp told him.
He said, "You're on the show right now," didn't he? He said, "I thought I watched it," and he said, "You're on the show." And then I read reports that said Julio had told Falcons officials that he didn't know he was on the phone, which seems like damage control to me.
I call complete utter BS.
Yeah,
and because I don't think Shannon Sharp would have called Julio,
knowing that Julio didn't know he was on
and
TV.
Didn't know that he was going to be on.
Yeah, so I agree. But the only thing that throws a wrench into that whole Odell thing is that around 90% of the reason why Atlanta not wants to trade Julio, needs to trade Julio, is because I think they've got something like $500,000 in cap space right now and still have all of their draft picks to sign. So that's the real wrench that's being thrown into things, is they really don't have the money to afford to take back expensive pieces as a return price. So that's really the big thing, and that's why I think Atlanta in this turn, I don't think they're still holding out for a first round pick. But if a team like Cleveland, who, by the way, they can make it work with both Odell and Julio. They have the money to do it. They probably won't have the money to do it next year, but they can make a super team for this year if they'd like to and move forward. But Atlanta is going to be looking for a first-round pick. But if you're Atlanta, if you can get $25 million in cap space and 2 second rounds, a second and third round, second and fourth round, just got to do it and run. Because, Julio, the fact they gave him that deal, that extension, knowing this guy is on the injury report more than anybody in the history of the league. This guy is constantly getting soft tissue injuries. And let's be honest, he hasn't been a dominant guy the last 2 or 3 years. Remember, he had that stretch 2 years ago where he didn't have one touchdown. He didn't have one touchdown the whole damn season. So, to me...
Take that back. I know what season exactly you're talking about.
And it was what
he did. He had 3.
He had 3. Okay.
All 3 of them was against Tampa Bay.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say he had, and it was it in one game or just both on 2 games? Okay.
Game was when he had like some 200 and something yards. Like he damn near broke some record. That's when Tampa's defense was horrid and couldn't guard their own shadow.
Yeah.
And I mean the game was close, but Julio put up like 260 on us or something like that. And had 2 touchdowns. And then later on in the Monday night game, he had another touchdown.
Yeah. And all I know is Taylor Gabriel had more touchdown passes or touchdown catches than Julio did. So, and a lot of people were saying, well, that was a Matt Ryan issue. Matt Ryan couldn't find him in the red zone. But really what it came down to was like teams figured out how to guard him in the red zone. And all it takes is like you just jam him, do as much as you can to get him off the line of scrimmage, off of his route, and hope that your pass rush gets to the quarterback before, they can throw the ball. So my point about the whole Julio thing is really about like, it really depends on which team is more desperate too. I think like a team like Denver probably isn't super desperate to trade for Julio right now because they feel pretty good about what they have at wide receiver and will likely have a nice crop of 4 or 5 really good wide receivers. So I think in terms of like who gets them, I think if you look at New England right now, they're in a very good position because they have the cap space, and also they'll still have the flexibility in the next couple of years if they decide to move on from Julio. So I like New England a lot, but I think Baltimore makes a lot of sense. You have to another thing to remember about Baltimore, they're in cap space trouble themselves, and they still have to extend Lamar. Apparently those talks aren't. Yeah, apparently those talks aren't going very well either. From what I'm reading, Lamar's camp is not happy with early talks with Baltimore. They're asking for a lot of discounts across the board and hoping that Lamar can essentially help them stay in cap space situation that they can sustain because right now they've just got so much money on the defensive side of the ball dedicated to the front 7. And I know that's changed a little bit over the last year or so with Baltimore, but they've got some work to do, but they've got the assets to do it. They can trade. I mean, listen, if you're Baltimore, you're not really losing sleep by trading a first-round pick next year if it's going to be in the 25 to 32 range, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, that will be interesting. The only other team that I haven't mentioned is San Francisco. San Francisco is interesting, man, because first of all, asset-wise, they could, well, money-wise, they could trade for him and not have to worry about money. But asset-wise, you would think they would want to work on other parts of the team rather than wide receiver, right? Like with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and they let like 3 or 4 other receivers go off the team this year because they felt really good about their top 2. And then you got Kittle in there as well. You've got Shanahan, who loves to run the ball and has got like 4 running backs. You've got Trey Lance now, who's going to be competing, and who knows if he'll compete for a job this year. But Garoppolo will certainly be there. In terms of like San Francisco being, I know that's a really hot name for ESPN and some of these other blogs to name. I just don't see San Francisco really as a logical space. I know that Shanahan is a former offensive coordinator of Atlanta and knows Julio well, but I think that's overblown. I don't know about you, but I think that whole like, he's my former coach and I want to go play for him. I don't think players really think like that in the NFL. I think they're like, dude, get me to a place where I could be valued. I think Julio feels undervalued right now.
That's in terms of too.
Yeah, and I think he wants to go somewhere where he feels valued. And by the way, Washington, another pretty interesting spot.
That's a good one
for them
I like
as
that
well.
One too.
So yeah, otherwise, yeah, and that's another thing I want to mention is so June 1st is when the official cutoff for some of these cap restrictions come off. There's going to be a ton of cuts that happen over the next week or so. A lot of these are going to be pretty high-profile names, including Julio, who, again, a lot of people are saying if they can't trade him, they may cut him because they could still get cap relief from it. I highly doubt they will cut Julio Jones. They would rather take a 7th round pick than to cut Julio. But yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of teams. I mean, I can tell you the bottom 3 right now, or bottom 5 right now. New Orleans has $700,000 in space. The Bears have $800,000 in space, and Atlanta has just over $1 million in space. And again, all 3 of these teams still have first-round picks, second-round picks, and third-round picks that they're going to have to sign. So it's going to be interesting. The Bears are going to be another team. You're going to see a lot of cuts next week, including possible cuts from Nick Foles, possible cuts for some of these other guys on the offensive line. I know Charles Leno will be a guy that we knew he was going to get cut, but he's a post-June 1st cut. So we knew he's going to get cut, and he will get cut next week. So the Bears will have some space to do what they need to do. But otherwise, there's going to be some really interesting moves that have to be made over the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be some teams who benefit from these cuts really heavily, including teams that are up on that top 10 in cap space. There's going to be a lot of players out and available for some teams here after these June 1st cuts.
Right.
Anything else, Nick?
Brother, I think we have covered everything. We spent a lot of time in the NBA, and rightfully so. So because it's playoff time. But I feel like we hit everything, bro.
Yeah, I feel like we did too, and also I think it's tough doing the show around this time of the year because NBA playoffs takes precedence. This is going to be until July too. That's another thing to keep in mind is that we're going to be talking about NBA basketball until mid-July, which to me and you, I know you're in the same boat as me. Anything that will help us move space until we can get to football season is going to be helpful for me. So there's not going to be that huge lull of 2 months of just basically baseball. So I'm happy that we'll see
ESPN 8, cornhole,
and yeah.
Throwing,
ESPN the Ocho. So yeah. So we're gonna be definitely talking some basketball in coming weeks. And again, guys, really appreciate all the support. If you curling, listen.
Dude, I'm just naming off, dude. Why
just
you're
name, just keep going. Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about some archery.
Remember those steel Wolfman classics or whatever they call them, where they would be out there, nothing but white people just out there chopping wood.
Hey, dude.
But they would chop a wood and put this steak in there, and then they jump on it and they chop the wood.
More, yeah. Hey, 8-year-old me was like, that shit's raw as fuck. I was watching this shit. I'm like, damn.
6 o'clock in the morning, ESPN 2.
Yeah, dude.
So today, it wasn't called Wolfman, but that's the only thing.
No, I know what you're talking about. It's all, and also I remember specifically they would have to cut the little wedge into the wood, put their little wood, and then jump on top, and then cut another wedge. And that shit was dope. Also, strongman competitions is what I used to watch a lot on those.
That's another one.
Strongman competitions were pretty dope, including like those big boulder throwing ones where you got to throw it over the thing. I was always like, damn, man, how they do? I remember like one of those boulders was like double my size at the time. I'm like, that's like somebody throwing me over that damn thing. So there's gonna be plenty. Trust me. ESPN is a corporate whore, and they will have every sport that will allow ESPN to be a part of. They are going to be a part of it. So I'm hearing lacrosse is going to be moving into bigger pastures. So lacrosse will be on there. So again, guys.
Lingerie Football League.
I'm okay with that one.
That's still a thing.
We can make that happen. That's not a problem.
Indoor soccer.
Yeah, the indoor soccer. Honestly, and I'm going to be honest with you. Because I've spent the last 2 years really focusing heavy on European football and trying to follow what's going on in European football. I think I'm going to follow the MLS this year. I think I'm going to give them a chance. I know the Fire sucks, so I'm not going to necessarily, make it attached to the Fire. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the MLS adjusts over the next year or so because, they've got a market now. They're on TV. They've got the commercials going. They've got the teams going. I'm hearing that the expansion teams are doing really well, including Austin FC, who lost like 90% of its funding before COVID, and then next thing you know, they're back up on there and apparently doing really well in Austin. So I'm gonna try and follow some MLS this year because let's just be honest. I mean, I'm a sports geek, and there's really not much more other than baseball for me to show for it here because Blackhawks suck or didn't make it, and the Bulls didn't make it either. So we'll see what we can do.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. Well, again, appreciate all the time, and you know, we really appreciate everyone doing everything that we say, which is share, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. It sounds dorky, but it just helps the show, and it really, you know, helps us do what we want to do. And you know, again, really excited to continue to do this, and I'm happy to be back. So for Nick over in Texas, I'm Mack. Steve's in the back. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.